Chapter 2101. As long as they were alive, it would be fine. As long as the people of Celestial Palace blocked the 4 corpse beasts and the corpse for a while, the people of beast-taming King's Valley would be able to escape. Once they were outside the valley, he would Luo Qingtong and the others would be in big trouble. Beast-taming King Gu Guzhu's voice was bloodthirsty. But when the people of Celestial Palace heard his words, they almost fell to the ground. Beast-taming King Gu Guzhu, you can't do this. We are from the Star Alliance Palace. We have the backing of the Star Alliance Palace, you can't just ignore us. The people of Celestial Palace were so scared that they even mentioned the name of the Star Alliance Palace. However, beast-taming King Gu Guzhu had already made up his mind to send them to their deaths. How could he be moved by their words? Not to mention, the Star Alliance Palace. Beast-taming King Gu Guzhu sneered. You will enter the Broken Star Valley with us and deal with this Luo Qingtong together. If you die here, what does it have to do with us? As he spoke, the smile on his face became more and more ferocious. All of this was done by Luo Qingtong. And if you die, the people of beast-taming King's Valley will be very sad. Don't worry. We will definitely tell the people of the Star Alliance Palace about this and kill Luo Qingtong to avenge you. Ha ha ha. In fact, the people of Celestial Palace didn't know that beast-taming King Gu Guzhu and the others had this idea from the very beginning. They exposed the existence of the Broken Star Valley to attract people from other forces to be cannon fodder. Not only did they not want those people to live, but they also didn't want the people of Celestial Palace to live. Once they got their hands on it, they would kill everyone in the valley except for the beast-taming King's Valley. While completely concealing the fact that their beast-taming King's Valley had obtained the inheritance, they also wanted to push this matter onto Luo Qingtong. She had become the target of all the sects in the hidden world. In this way, they could legitimately join forces with the other sects in the land of the deceased immortals to kill Luo Qingtong, forcing her to hand over the treasure map. At that time, even if Luo Qingtong had the protection of a first-class sect like the Heavenly Yuan sect, it would be of no use. However, before they could carry out their plan, Luo Qingtong had come to the Broken Stars Valley with those people. Not only did it shatter their plans, it also forced them into a life-and-death situation. Under such circumstances, the people of Celestial Palace still wanted to use the people of Star Alliance to suppress them in exchange for a chance to survive. How ridiculous was this? Even without Luo Qingtong, they would still die. Only the people of Celestial Palace would be stupid enough to think that the people of beast-taming King's Valley were really prepared to use benefits in exchange for a chance to help. It was simply ridiculous. They would die here without any evidence. Who could say that they killed them? Luo Qingtong? Would the people of Star Alliance believe her words? These idiots of Celestial Palace. The words of beast-taming King Gu Guzhu made the faces of the people of Celestial Palace pale. At this moment, they finally understood the situation they were in. There was no way for them to survive. The people of beast-taming King's Valley didn't plan to let them live from the beginning. They even thought of what they would say to the outside world after their deaths. These bastards! The voice of the Celestial Palace Master was sharp and desperate. Chapter 2102. Ah! After he screamed, he was kicked out of the group by the beast-tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others. The rest of the Celestial Palace people did the same. Even if they begged and pleaded, the beast-tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others were not moved at all. They could only live if they lost the people of Celestial Palace. Go! After kicking out the people of Celestial Palace and letting them face the 4 corpse beasts and corpses, the beast-tamer King Gu Guzhu ordered. In an instant, the people of Beast-Tamer Valley rushed out of the cave. Seeing this, Luo Qingtong's eyes turned cold. She waved the life and death sword in her hand and was about to rush out. At this moment, Yun Shi stopped her. Don't chase after them. There is a time limit to controlling these Yin corpses and Yin corpse beasts. Yunxi's forehead and hands were full of sweat. First, it took a lot of effort to control these Yin corpse beasts and Yin corpses. Second, only she knew in her heart that although Zhuge Shursan had done something to the corpses of his contracted beasts and himself, he was too powerful. After transforming into Yin corpses, his strength would only increase gradually. At that time, he might be able to get rid of the arrangements he had left behind. Therefore, in order to eliminate this hidden danger, he set a time limit to control them. He let his Yin corpses and contracted beasts' corpses self-destruct after protecting his successor during this period of time. At this moment, there was not much time left. It could be said that Yunxi was completely under great psychological pressure to control the 4 Yin corpse beasts and Yin corpses to attack. She was afraid that before the people of Beast Tamer Valley died, the 4 Yin corpse beasts and Yin corpses would self-destruct first. Fortunately, the people of Beast Tamer Valley ran away. Hearing this, Luo Qingtong stopped in her tracks. She looked at Yunxi, and the corners of her lips curled up. She smiled at her and said, "Well done." Luo Qingtong did not know that there was a time limit to controlling these Yin corpse beasts and Yin corpses. But thinking about it, it was normal. The corpse puppets of the great Yong saints could continuously increase their strength in the land of the fallen immortals, so Zhuge Shursan's Yin corpse must be the same. He was powerful to begin with. The moment he transformed into a holy venerable realm Yin corpse, he could even use the power of the holy venerable realm. If it were to improve further, with Yunxi's strength, she might not be able to restrain it. Since Zhuge Shursan wanted his successor to bring his beast-taming spell back to the family, it was normal for him to set a time limit without knowing the strength of the person. Otherwise, it would be hilarious if his successor was killed by his own corpse. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong immediately put away the life and death Yin Yang sword in her hand, turned around, and rushed back into the cave. The Celestial Palace Master, who was being held in the mouth of a Yin corpse beast, heard the conversation between Luo Qingtong and Yunxi. He was so angry that he couldn't even catch his breath. He died of anger just like that. So these 4 Yin corpse beasts and the Yin corpse had a time limit. If Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others had held on for a little longer, they might have been able to hold on until the Yin corpse and the Yin corpse beasts collapsed. But they ran away. They even caused him and the others to die here for no reason. Those bastards of Beast Tamer Valley. His eyes were wide open. He really died with remaining grievances. Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others rushed out of the cave. Looking at the huge cave behind them, Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu shouted, "Quick! Let's destroy this cave." Chapter 2103. His face was full of resentment. Luo Qingtong, that bitch, actually forced them into such an embarrassing situation. But she didn't expect that they would escape in the end, right? Now, it was their turn to let her die without a burial place. She would be buried together with the beast mark inheritance. Of course, this was also to prevent the 4 Yin corpse beasts and Yin corpses from chasing them out. Yes. The higher-ups of the beast-taming King's Valley hurriedly responded. They naturally knew the consequences of the 4 Yin corpse beasts and Yin corpses chasing them out. Although they had already escaped from the cave, they would be fine as long as they got out of the valley. But who knew how many people would die in the process? That Luo Qingtong was really their nemesis. They couldn't let her chase them out. Thinking of this, they immediately turned back and directly bombarded the mountain at the top of the cave with tyrannical attacks. Rumble. Under their attacks, the mountain at the top of the cave shook. Then, with a boom, it suddenly collapsed. Gravel splashed, and boulders crashed. In an instant it was as if the sky was falling and the earth was rending. In the cave, Luo Qingtong put away her sword and walked in the direction of Yunxi. She was about to ask Yunxi if there was any other way out of the cave besides the entrance. After all, The Een corpse beasts and Een corpses had a limited time, so they naturally couldn't go out from the entrance of the cave or even the entrance of the Broken Star Valley. But they couldn't stay in the cave for a long time. If they didn't see them chase out, the people of the beast-taming King's Valley would inevitably be suspicious. Luo Qingtong believed that since the man named Zhuge Shursan set the time limit for the Een corpse beasts and Een corpses, he must have considered how his inheritor could leave. Otherwise, what if his successor was robbed and killed when he left the valley? Since the other party wanted his inheritor to bring back his beast-taming incantation, it was impossible that he didn't take this precaution. However, before she could speak, she heard a loud bang above her head. Then, soil and stones fell like a torrent. The boulders above collapsed and rolled down. In an instant, the top of the cave shook and was about to collapse. What was going on? Luo Qingtong's face froze. She looked at Yun Shi. She didn't know if this was a sign that the inheritance of the cave had been inherited or some other reason. As for Yun Shi, when the ceiling of the cave shook for a while, the expression on her face suddenly froze. This isn't the content of the cave legacy. The man named Zhuge Shursan did not mention this in the inheritance. She hurriedly said to Luo Qingtong. Then, he pulled Luo Qingtong's sleeve and said to her, "Quick, follow me. There's a secret passage here." Just as Luo Qingtong thought, the man named Zhuge Shursan had already left a way out. Yun Shi pulled Luo Qingtong along as they ran into the depths of the cave. The 4 Een corpse beasts and Een corpses protected them on their left and right. He led them into the depths of the cave. Coupled with Luo Qingtong's blood pupil, she could always find the safest path in the most critical moment. The group of people reached the depths of the cave without any danger. Then Yun Shi lifted the place where the man named Zhuge Shursan had passed away. There was a cave under the cattail hassock. It was covered by a force. Yun Shi pressed her hand on it. Chapter 2104. Feeling the power of the beast mark inheritance, the power covering the cave instantly disappeared, revealing the dark cave entrance. "Let's go." Yun Shi directly pulled Luo Qingtong and jumped into the cave. When they jumped down, the rocks and soil at the top of the cave also collapsed with a loud rumble. Rumble. The entire cave was covered by the collapsed rocks and soil. The 4 Een corpse beasts and Zhuge Shursan's Een corpse didn't have time to enter the cave. In the landslide, they were instantly submerged by the rocks and soil that came down from above. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold as she looked at the mud and rocks flowing down from the entrance of the cave. She pulled Yun Shi and dashed toward the front of the tunnel. This tunnel wasn't a straight line, but a curve. Luo Qingtong rushed forward nearly 100 meters with Yun Shi. The mud and rocks that suddenly poured in stopped not far behind them. Yun Shi's face was pale. Looking at the mud and rocks that stopped not far away from them, she suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. The scene just now was really too thrilling. This must be the work of those people from the beast-taming King's Valley. She gritted her teeth. If she had known, she wouldn't have stopped Luo Qingtong from chasing after them. Not only that, she should have also sent out the 4 Een corpse beasts and Een corpse to scare away those people from the beast-taming King's Valley. Then this kind of thing wouldn't have happened. Fortunately, that person called Zhuge Shursan had left a secret passage. Otherwise, wouldn't she have killed herself and Luo Qingtong here? It's okay. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. They won't be able to jump around for long. When they got out of the land of the deceased immortals, she would let those people from the beast-taming King's Valley know what despair was. Here, they could be arrogant for a while. Luo Qingtong snorted coldly and hid the bloodthirsty color in her eyes. At this time, Yun Shi covered her mouth and looked at her and exclaimed, "Qingtong, your little pig." Only then did Yun Shi realize that the little pig and the corpse puppet were no longer beside Luo Qingtong. Could it be, thinking that Luo Qingtong's pet had met with an accident because of her, Yun Shi's eyes were filled with guilt, and she was almost about to cry. Only then did Luo Qingtong remember that she had put Little Pig and the zombie into the 9-story exquisite pagoda at the critical moment. She immediately raised her hand and released them. "They're fine." Yun Shi's expression. When Little Pig came out, he immediately patted his chest with a face full of lingering fear. "Oh my God, I was really scared to death just now." It shook off the dust on its body. It had almost been buried alive. The corpse puppet of the great Yong Saint also appeared in front of Luo Qingtong. Seeing this scene, Yun Shi immediately felt relieved. Fortunately, they're fine. Otherwise, she would have really let Luo Qingtong down. Yun Shi didn't expect that at that time. She had only considered that the Yin corpse and the Yin corpse beast couldn't be controlled for long. She was afraid that the people of the Beast Tamer King's Valley would find out, so she didn't let Luo Qingtong chase after them. In the end, they almost got themselves killed. Thinking of this, she still felt a lingering fear in her heart. "Okay." Luo Qingtong nodded. She looked around, then asked Yun Shi, "Do you know where this secret passage leads?" "No." Yun Shi shook her head. "The inheritance of Zhuge Shursan only told me that I could leave by going this way." Luo Qingtong frowned when she heard that. There were two meanings of leaving. One was to leave the Shattered Star Valley. The other was to leave the land of the deceased immortals. It would be fine if it was the first one, but if it was the second one, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed. She still had the treasure map that she hadn't checked yet. It would be a loss if she just left like this. Chapter 2105. Rumble. Outside, there was another violent tremor as if the sky and earth were spinning. Even through the thick underground and piles of dirt, Luo Qingtong could clearly feel the tremors outside. What? The beast-taming valley was still bombarding? Were they afraid that she wasn't dead yet? However, Luo Qingtong didn't know that this tremor wasn't caused by the beast-taming valley at all. Outside, the beast-taming valley's people were floating above the ruins of the cave. They sneered as they looked at the pile of dirt and rubble that covered the original location of the cave. Under this kind of collapse, not to mention that Luo Qingtong was only a saint emperor, even the 4 Yin corpse beasts and Yin corpses wouldn't be spared. Bitch, did she think that she could do whatever she wanted just because she obtained the inheritance inside? Since they couldn't obtain it, they'd rather destroy it. The beast-taming King Gu Guju's face was twisted like a ghost's. He was both angry and sneering. It made one's hair stand on end. He looked at the pile of collapsed ruins and was about to order the upper echelons of the beast-taming King Valley around him to clean up the huge rock fragments to see if Luo Qingtong and the others' bodies were among them. However, at this moment, a series of tremors came from outside. In the sky, a gust of wind and cloud surged. The black fog in the entire land of the fallen immortals suddenly stirred violently in the midst of the tremors. The black vortexes that formed were filled with a terrifying corrosive aura, enough to kill anyone wearing the immortal Jade Bones aura. The entire land of the fallen immortals changed greatly. This is, the beast-taming King Gu Guju and the others looked in the direction of the tremors with shock. It was the center of the land of the fallen immortals. Is it the forbidden area? Huh. Is there some movement from the treasure in the forbidden area? The beast-taming King Gu Guju and the others were wild with joy. They couldn't care less about the rubble and the possible corpse of Luo Qingtong in it. They immediately rushed out of the valley. The crimson shadows that were 100 meters away from the depths of the Shattered Star Valley could no longer hinder their movements. After all, the surviving higher-ups of the beast-taming King's Valley were all top-notch experts of the valley. If they hadn't been worried about the safety of their disciples, they wouldn't have been so embarrassed by the crimson shadows in the valley. They didn't have any burdens by their side. The attacks of the crimson phantoms were useless against them. Soon, they flew out of the broken Star Valley. Golden-winged rock. Beast-taming King Gu and the others shouted. They were afraid of the crimson shadows' attacks on strange attacks, and the Beast-Taming Valley. And the Beast-Taming Valley's contract beasts. Of course, most of the contracted beasts had regained their freedom due to the deaths of the Beast-Tamer King's Valley disciples. There was no trace of them at the moment. On the other hand, the Beast-Taming King Valley Master and the others had summoned their own contracted beasts. The Beast-Taming Rock and the others struggled, but they couldn't break free from the control of Guguju and the others. They could only obey their orders and fly over. Chapter 2106. Beast-Tamer King Guguju sneered. Looking at the struggling look in the eyes of the golden-winged rock and the other demonic beasts, how could he not know that they actually wanted to break free from their control? Unfortunately, that bitch Luo Qingtong was dead. And the girl who obtained the Beast-Tamer inheritance in the Broken Star Valley was also dead. They would never be able to break free from their servitude in this lifetime. Not only that, when Beast-Tamer King Guguju and the others rushed into the depths of the cave, they also saw the contents of the fifth Beast-Tamer incantation carved on the cave wall. With their strength, they could remember it with a single glance. The contents of the Beast-Tamer incantation had already been engraved in their hearts with a single glance. Now, the golden-winged rock and the other demonic beasts should give up on breaking free from their control. Beast-Tamer King Guguju sneered and raised his hand to form a seal. In an instant, that faintly discernible trace of clarity in the golden-winged rock's eyes was suppressed by him in the depths of his mind, unable to rise again. Not only that, after the seal was formed, Beast-Tamer King Guguju's strength increased greatly, and he even vaguely felt that he had touched the level of the Venerable Realm. It turned out that after fusing with the fifth Beast-Tamer incantation, he discovered a new way to use the seal, which allowed him to exchange strength with the golden-winged rock. As a demonic beast, the latter's strength was originally stronger than practitioners of the same level. Beast-Tamer King Guguju borrowed the power of the golden-winged rock. In an instant, the strength of the man and the beast increased by a level. The other higher-ups of Beast-Tamer King Valley also followed suit and linked their strength with their contracted beasts, instantly increasing their strength by more than one-fold. Humph! Luo Qingtong, that bitch! The Beast-Taming King Valley's Valley Master gritted his teeth. If we hadn't left the golden-winged rock and the others outside, afraid that they wouldn't be able to resist the psychic attack of the blood-colored shadow, how could they have been beaten so badly by her? That bitch, fortunately she died early, otherwise I would definitely let her know what it means to beg for death but beg for life. Beast-Tamer King Guguju's heart was filled with resentment and had nowhere to vent. If they had brought the golden-winged rock and the others in, they would definitely not have been unable to retaliate under Luo Qingtong's trap. But who would have thought that Luo Qingtong would appear? Not to mention that she had a way to deal with those blood-colored shadows. Otherwise, how could they have been forced to such a state? But now, it didn't matter. Luo Qingtong was dead, and the beast-taming inheritance that was most likely on top of the 5 beast-taming spells that they had fused had been completely buried under the ruins. It's S's. But compared to killing Luo Qingtong, it was all worth it. Not to mention that they had already fused with the 5 beast-taming arts. The resistance of the golden-winged Great Pung and the others had all been disintegrated by them. Now that their strength had soared, the treasures in this forbidden zone were bound to be theirs. Let's go. Beast-Tamer King Guguju sneered. He looked at the center of the fallen immortal land, where the winds and clouds were surging and the waves of heaven and earth were constantly erupting. He was extremely pleased. Chapter 2107. She thought she was invincible with the treasure map, but now such a change has happened in the forbidden area. I'm afraid she doesn't need the treasure map to find the treasure that so many foreign powerhouses covet. That bitch can just wait to see our beast-taming King Valley succeed in the underground. When the time comes, I will eliminate everyone related to her. Beast-taming King Guguju's eyes were cold and ruthless. He didn't care whether Luo Qingtong's name was real or fake, whether she was called Night Eye or Luo Qingtong. It didn't matter. After he got the treasure and left the fallen immortal land, he would kill everyone related to Night Eye and Luo Qingtong. Seeing her relationship with Sky Yuan's sect's head disciple, Zhu Yi, he must know her true identity. Was she from the true Spill Continent's secular land? Then he would wash the entire secular land with blood, all the places and people related to her. Nothing would be left alive. Let's go. The group rushed towards the center of the forbidden area in the fallen immortal land. In other places in the fallen immortal land, the other fluctuations in the center of the forbidden area were also detected by everyone. Bang! At the place where the Sky Yuan sect's people were training, Su Yu, Su Xiaoxiao, and the others were jointly killing a Yin corpse that was screaming at them. Su Yu, Thunder Beast, and Yuan Little Overlord were in charge of defense, while Sima Zhu and Ling Tianhan were in charge of killing. Very quickly, the Yin corpse was killed. Su Yu and the others were also injured. They were adjusting their breathing and taking the medicine that Su Xiaoxiao specially made for them. Those who were seriously injured took the pills that Luo Qingtong had left for them. The group was recovering their strength. Meanwhile, the entire land of the deceased immortals began to shake violently. The people from the Sky Yuan sect, who were fighting with the other Yin corpses, also looked in the direction of the tremors. It's the forbidden area. Bai Suqing and the Grand Dean looked at each other. The Sky Yuan sect master and the others also noticed the source of the shaking. Seeing the surrounding black mist stirring violently, forming a black vortex that could kill people, completely ignoring the aura of the immortal jade bone, the Sky Yuan sect master and the others' faces were very serious. Let's go and take a look. For such a big shake to occur in the forbidden area, it was unusual. Could it be that the treasure in the forbidden area had some movement? As the crowd thought of this, their hearts began to palpitate. Everyone from the Sky Yuan sect had been searching for Luo Qingtong. However, the scene in the fallen immortal land was too dangerous, so they didn't dare to wander around. Originally, he wanted to train at the place where he and the rest often trained for a period of time before heading to the restricted area to see if Luo Qingtong would go there. After all, the girl was in possession of that treasure map, and there was no reason for her to let go of the things inside. Otherwise, she wouldn't make a deal with them. But before they could, before the forbidden area, Luozazaz. The group tests the immortal land immortal TSS immortal along the way, they didn't know how many sects they met. All of them were heading for the forbidden area. Outside the fallen immortal land. The Star Alliance Palace Master and the others who had been guarding outside also felt the strange movement in the fallen immortal land. Chapter 2108. That spiritual energy hurricane was like a huge pillar of light that fell from the sky, covering a certain place in the center of the land of the fallen immortals. Inside, countless monster beasts roared in unison. Heaven and earth resonated with each other, and the spiritual energy was vast and mighty. There were also countless god-beast phantoms, soaring dragons and dancing phoenixes, and the laws of heaven and earth descended. That vast and mighty power could be felt by the Star Alliance Temple Master and the others even though they were far away from the land of the fallen immortals. Ha ha ha. Great! There are indeed extraordinary treasures in here. The Star Alliance Temple Master was shocked and pleasantly surprised. He looked up to the sky and laughed, rejoicing that he had made a prompt decision to surround the entire land of the fallen immortals. It could actually cause the laws to resonate, and the god-beast phantoms. He was afraid that the treasure inside was really a sector beast, just as the secret story he had accidentally obtained had said. The sector beast was said to be more precious and powerful than the ancient god-beasts. It was formed from the world's origin laws of heaven and earth that had evolved to the extreme. It was born with an incomparably powerful origin power. Legend had it that the person who owned the sector beast could control the law it had taken form of through it, and thus surpass that law of heaven and earth. For example, if the sector beast was the embodiment of the metal law, then under the influence of that sector beast, all the metal law would be controlled by the person who owned it. Not only that, legend had it that when the sector beast grew to the extreme, it could even transform into a world. There, all the metal law would be controlled by it. Everyone who entered would have to listen to its orders. Such a place was called the World Land. Anyone who entered that place, as long as the sector beast was willing, could be bestowed with the power of the metal law, allowing them to have a metal soul seal. With so many benefits, it made everyone scramble for the sector beast like a flock of ducks. Even the peerless powerhouses from the outer realms were no exception. When the Star Alliance Temple Master heard this secret before, he only treated it as a rumor and didn't take it to heart. After all, how rare were the sector beasts in this world? They were basically legends, and no one had even seen them before. How could they appear on this inferior and barren continent of the true Spill continent? To be honest, if he hadn't committed some crimes and had no choice but to be demoted here, he wouldn't have come to this continent at all. The spiritual energy here was so barren that it wasn't suitable for venerable powerhouses like them to cultivate. Only fools would come here. However, who would have thought that the rumor that he had heard as a joke and a rumor would come true right in front of him? The Star Alliance Palace Master looked at the scene of hundreds of beasts roaring in unison in front of him and laughed with incomparable pride and joy. Have people surround this place of the fallen immortals. Send more people here immediately. Don't let anyone in here go. I must get my hands on that treasure. The Star Alliance Temple of the Star of the Immortals here of the Sector of the Fallen Immortal of the Fallen Fallen Immortal Fallen. He sectors of the universe. The Outerium was so vast that he could do as he pleased, didn't it? Of the Lord of the Fallen. Even the Alliance Master would have to treat him with respect. Thinking of this, the smile on the face of the Star Alliance Temple Master became even more proud. When the Star Alliance Temple Master gave the order, Yi Qianxian and the others also noticed the strange phenomenon in the middle of the fallen immortal of the fallen immortal. Chapter 2109. Master, Bei Qing, Wind Feather, and the others all looked at Yi Qianxian. All of them had extraordinary statuses, so they could naturally see what was going on. Sector Beast. The legendary Sector Beast, which was even more precious than ancient mythological beasts, had actually appeared on a low-level continent like the true Spill continent. No wonder those powerhouses who had died in the land of the fallen immortals were so united that they didn't even leak any information about it. They were still guessing what kind of treasure it was that caused these powerhouses to not leak any information even after they had died. Not only that, but their obsessions after death had condensed and not dissipated. Not only did they form the land of the fallen immortals, but they also used their minds to gather and prevent other powerhouses from entering. So it was a sector beast. Then all of this wasn't surprising. After all, even on their side, a sector beast was extremely eye-catching and coveted. If these powerhouses who knew about the sector beast's existence dared to leak any information to the outside world, not to mention themselves, even their friends and family would not be spared. It was no wonder that they had hidden this information so well. However, the appearance of the sector beast had caused such a huge commotion that it was likely that this matter could no longer be concealed. Even if the people of the Star Alliance Palace didn't know what this thing was, they would absolutely not give up after seeing the phenomenon in the sky. Yi Qianxian's eyes were cold as he looked at the phenomenon in the sky. Gather all the people near us. The near us he spoke of was naturally not near the land of the fallen immortals, but near the outskirts of the true Spill continent. Yi Qianxian didn't have many people here. The true Spill continent was really too remote. For Yi Qianxian's forces, the difference was like a remote village and a city in the capital. However, even if there weren't many, it was enough to deal with the Star Alliance Palace in the true Spill continent. The news of the sector beast's appearance here couldn't be easily spread. Yes. Bei Qing, Wind Feather, and the others quickly responded. However, Wind Feather's expression was somewhat hesitant. Once those powerhouses above the Exalt realm were mobilized, Master's identity would be exposed. It's all right. Yi Qianxian's expression was indifferent. He hid his identity because he didn't want Luo Qingtong to face pressure from the other side too early. But since he couldn't hide it anymore, there was no need to hide it anymore. He hid his identity for Luo Qingtong. Now that he had revealed his identity, it was all for Luo Qingtong. The girl was the only basis of his life's code of conduct. He could break everything for her. Moreover, after this trip to the land of the deceased immortals, he was going to take her back to the other side. It didn't matter if his identity was exposed or not. Yes. As soon as Yi Qianxian spoke, Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others were pleasantly surprised. Based on Master's words, did he intend to bring the evil doctor back to that side? Ha ha ha. It feels so good. Master is finally returning to that side. Bei Qing and Feng Yu were still grinning from ear to ear when they left. Only the heavens knew that he was about to die from waiting. Those people who looked down on others and thought that their master wouldn't live for long, so they were waiting for their master to die so that they could inherit everything. They were finally going to be taught a lesson. Chapter 21:10. Bei Qing chuckled as he spoke. If those people knew that Master didn't want to die, and was actively looking for a way to extend his life, and had already succeeded in extending his life for 3 years, what would those people's expressions be like? They would probably be uglier than eating shit. As for Feng Yu and the others, their faces were filled with joy and happiness. Only the heavens knew that they had been waiting for Yi Qianxian to change his mind and be willing to go back to the other side. But as the treatment of the heavenly pulse body became ineffective, Master didn't want to live anymore. Even if there was a way to extend his life, he didn't want to try it. This was a very normal thing. After all, he was destined to be a king, but because of his excellence and glory, he was not tolerated by the heavens. Even if his strength was at the peak of arrogance, he could only be suppressed and reduced. Who could endure such humiliation and humiliation? What's more, Master was such a proud person. But this was different. Master had met the evil doctor, and there was a possibility that the heavenly pulse body could be cured. As long as the evil doctor's strength continued to increase, when she stood side by side with Master, she would immediately be able to remove the shackles of heaven from Master's body. In this way, what did Master have to fear? Not to mention the existence of the evil doctor. Master also had a reason to live. He wanted to see the girl and the pearl that belonged to him, under the sky of this star field, radiant and glorious. For this, he was willing to continue to endure and bear the injustice that the heavenly Tao imposed on him. In the past, everything that was difficult to bear and unwilling to bear was because he didn't have a reason or hope to persevere. But now, he had. He wanted to accompany his girl for the rest of her life. If she didn't die, he wouldn't die. Even if the heavenly Tao forced him, he would never bow his head in fear. Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others were grateful to Luo Qingtong from the bottom of their hearts. If it weren't for the girl's appearance, Yi Qianxian would have spent the last 3 years of his life in the true Spill continent in silence. Then at 28, when the time came, he would die, just like those people with the heavenly vain body who had appeared before. As for those who had chosen to follow Yi Qianxian, they would also be leaving with their master. It could be said that Luo Qingtong's appearance had not only saved Yi Qianxian, but also saved them. The group left in high spirits. Yi Qianxian stood on the mountain peak with his hands behind his back, looking in the direction of the land of the fallen immortals. In his eyes, the place where the incomparably huge spiritual energy hurricane swept up was actually surrounded by the consciousness bodies of countless foreign experts. The huge consciousness bodies formed by the foreign experts were happily looking in the direction of the spirit chi hurricane. They let out sharp roars as if they were waiting for something. That expression was indescribably smug and greedy. Yi Qianxian narrowed his eyes as he watched. Somewhere in the extraterritorial Star Alliance, a young girl in a light white robe was looking at a Star Alliance expert who had come to report to her with a surprised expression. She asked, "Are you sure? Did you really find him?" "Yes." The Star Alliance powerhouse cupped his fists and nodded. "That powerhouse is currently in a place called the True Spill Continent." Chapter 21:11. As the Star Alliance powerhouse spoke, his heart was filled with disbelief. True Spill Continent, a low-level 9th-ranked continent. If they hadn't confirmed it multiple times, they wouldn't have believed that the man who could easily shatter the Mrs. Spirit Mirror would be in such a low-level continent. A 9th-ranked continent, and the one with the most barren spiritual energy, it was almost impossible to raise the level of a continent. In such a place, why would that powerhouse go there? Could it be that he had something to do, so he temporarily stayed there? The Star Alliance powerhouse didn't understand, but this didn't prevent him from reporting the other party's whereabouts. Hearing this, the Star Alliance eldest young miss immediately laughed. "Good. Have everyone prepare. We'll go to True Spill Continent together." Mo Zhuling was overjoyed. After so many years, this was the first time that she had been so obsessed with a man. During this time, all she could think about was finding Yi Qianxian. For this, she didn't hesitate to use her father's favor. He had someone extract the aura from his spirit mirror fragment and trace it all the way to the True Spill Continent. Thinking that she would soon be able to see the man she had glimpsed in the spirit mirror, the man she would never forget, Mo Zhuling's face was filled with joy. Land of the Fallen Immortals, Broken Star Valley. Luo Qingtong didn't know that this had happened. She heard the rumbling outside, and then there was no more sound, so she didn't pay any attention to it. Being underground and separated by a thick layer of mud, Luo Qingtong didn't know what was happening outside. She also didn't know that a great change had occurred in the Forbidden Zone. The Forbidden Zone's treasure was about to come out. She frowned as she looked at the direction of the mudslide in front of her. Since she wasn't going to go out through this tunnel, she could only go back the way she came. Fortunately, there was no more movement outside. Presumably, the beast-taming King Valley people had already left. But thinking about it, the shaking was so big that the mountain collapsed and the cave collapsed. If she hadn't died in this cave, she would have already rushed out. Why would she wait until now? The people from the beast-taming King's Valley waited outside for a while. When they didn't see her, they naturally thought that she was dead. Time was precious in the graveyard of immortals. The people of beast-taming King's Valley would be stupid to stay here and guard her. However, the power of this mudslide was too strong. With the ruins of an entire mountain on top of it, it would not be easy to get out. Luo Qingtong frowned as she thought about it. Bang! After waiting for a while and confirming that there was no one outside, Luo Qingtong raised her sword and slashed out. Boom! The entire underground area covered by the mudslide suddenly trembled. Under the might of Luo Qingtong's sword, the mudslide that had rushed in from the tunnel was suddenly blasted forward for tens of meters, and then pressed back with a boom. No. Luo Qingtong frowned slightly. She wasn't strong enough. The mudslide was fluid. Unless she blasted away all the ruins and rocks covering the tunnel with one blow. Otherwise, at the moment her power was reduced, the other mudslides would surge in from other places and seal the passage she had opened once again. And to blast open this tunnel with one blow. Chapter 21:12. After all, this was the collapsed soil of an entire mountain. Even so, the power of her crimson eyes was also taken into account. She could calculate where the soil was the easiest to blast open, where the soil was the weakest, and where the attack power was the least, reducing the difficulty by at least 10 times. Otherwise, even a peak Holy Spirit Realm expert, close to the Holy Venerable Realm, would not be able to blast open the soil and escape, let alone a Holy Emperor Realm expert. She could only leave through that tunnel. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, when she killed the gigantic crimson figure, she had conveniently collected the body of the gigantic crimson figure in her hand. Although it was shattered and its level was greatly reduced, it was enough for her to reach the Holy Emperor realm. After all, the giant crimson figure was in the Holy Spirit realm. Even if it was reduced by one level, it was enough for her to reach the Holy Emperor realm. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong immediately took out the shattered body of the giant crimson figure. That giant crimson immortal jade bone was shattered into countless pieces by Luo Qingtong's sword. Luo Qingtong did not take the smaller pieces, because that kind of crimson immortal jade bone was actually useless. As for the remaining blood-colored immortal jade bones, they were about the size of 2 palms. Fortunately, the body of the giant crimson immortal jade bone was big enough. Otherwise, under Luo Qingtong's sword, not to mention the Holy Emperor immortal jade bone, she might not even be able to get a piece of it. Luo Qingtong took the largest crimson immortal jade bone in her hand. Then, after thinking for a while, she threw a smaller crimson immortal jade bone fragment to Yun Shi along with the other crimson immortal jade bone fragments she had obtained in the Shattered Star Valley. That's right, when she rushed into the Shattered Star Valley with the other forces, Luo Qingtong had collected all the bodies of the crimson figures she had killed. These could help the people around her improve their strength as quickly as possible. If she did not collect them, would she just wait to abandon them in the valley? It should be known that after those forces were wiped out, there was no one from the beast-taming King Valley to take the blame. With Luo Qingtong's current strength, she couldn't travel through the Broken Star Valley as easily as before. By then, even if he could kill a few of the bloody figures, he might not be able to obtain their bodies. After all, that place was filled with blood-red figures. However, he had a way to deal with these crimson figures. In the future, when Su Yu and the others' strength increased, he could bring them here to hunt these crimson figures. In any case, one could never have too many good things, not to mention these blood-colored immortal jade bones that could help her subordinates increase their strength, increase their comprehension, and allow them to break through bottlenecks without any hindrance. This blood-colored immortal jade bone was comparable to several ordinary immortal jade bones. What's more, the combat skills and cultivation experience contained in it could be used almost immediately after being absorbed. It was much more useful than ordinary treasures that could increase one's strength. Why not use it? While Luo Qingtong was thinking about this, Yun Shi had already caught what she had thrown over. This is, she looked at the crimson immortal jade bone in her hand with a surprised expression. Because Yun Shi had been purified, and because she had been protected by Luo Qingtong, she didn't see the bodies of the bloody figures in the middle of the team. Naturally, she didn't know what this thing was. Chapter 21:13. It's the body of those blood-colored figures. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. Blood-colored celestial jade bones. Take it and improve your strength. She already knew about Yun Shi's vow from Little Pig, so she naturally wouldn't be stingy with these blood-colored celestial jade bones. What's more, the beast-taming inheritance had already been given to Yun Shi, so these blood-colored celestial jade bones were nothing. If Yun Shi's strength improved, it would be of great help to her in the future. Speaking of which, it was depressing. Luo Qingtong didn't know that she couldn't accept Zhuge Shisan's beast mark inheritance because of the heaven and earth contract. Otherwise, how could she find Su Yu and the others and bring someone here? She was really almost cheated to death. But it didn't matter now. Since Yun Shi had made the vow, it was the same to give it to her. Luo Qingtong was just depressed that she had almost been cheated to death by this beast mark inheritance in the cave. If she hadn't coincidentally met Yun Shi and brought her along, and if Yun Shi hadn't repaid her kindness, she wouldn't have known how badly she would have been cheated. Just those 4 Een corpse beasts and Zhuge Shisan's Een corpse were enough to make her suffer. Not to mention that there were people from the beast-taming King's Valley eyeing her covetously. If the people from the beast-taming King's Valley really stole the beast mark inheritance and hunted her down instead, it would really be a joke. She came to disturb the situation, but she ended up benefiting others instead. Luo Qingtong felt that she would probably vomit to death at that time. But the thing that cheated her was her own thing, and she didn't even have a place to vent her anger. That would really make her vomit a mouthful of old blood. Luo Qingtong thought so, and suddenly the corners of her mouth twitched slightly. And after She heard Luo Qingtong's words, she suddenly looked at the blood-colored celestial jade bones in her hand with a shocked expression. Blood-colored celestial jade bones? These blood-colored celestial jade bones, her voice was stuttering for a while. She was originally prepared to listen to Luo Qingtong's words and use them to improve her strength, but then she realized that these celestial jade bones, no, these blood-colored celestial jade bones, had actually been purified. The murderous aura and death aura had completely disappeared. What was left behind was an extremely pure and dense aura. Luo Qingtong said that this was the blood immortal jade bone. A purified blood-colored immortal jade bone? She covered her mouth and almost couldn't restrain the exclamation coming out of her mouth. She had never thought that Luo Qingtong would have such an ability after seeing through the true form of the bloody figure. She was actually able to purify these blood-colored immortal jade bones? She couldn't imagine what kind of uproar it would cause if word of Luo Qingtong's ability got out. This girl's ability was simply terrifying. How many immortal jade bones and blood immortal jade bones were there in the land of the fallen immortals? It could be said that with Luo Qingtong's ability, the entire land of the deceased immortals would become her backyard garden. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that as long as Luo Qingtong was willing, she could establish a first-rate sect comparable to beast-taming King's Valley. In this hidden world, there was no need to fear anyone at all, and there was no need to look at their eyes. It was ridiculous that the people of beast-taming King's Valley thought that Luo Qingtong was nothing to be afraid of. They only had the ability to contend with them by relying on others, even the Tianyuan sect. However, in fact, as long as Luo Qingtong was given some time, it was not certain who would kill who in the future. She was extremely glad that she had chosen the right path before. If she had turned around and left like those people who had betrayed Luo Qingtong at that time, she was afraid that she would never know what she would have missed. If those people knew about Luo Qingtong's ability, they would probably regret it until their intestines turned green. In fact, she didn't know that those people didn't even have the chance to regret. That's right. Chapter 21:14. Luo Qingtong looked at her and suddenly asked, "Did Zhuge Shisan's inheritance mention what the sector beast is?" "No." She looked at Luo Qingtong with a confused expression. "Sector beast, what is that?" She carefully recalled the things in her mind. She found that there was indeed no information about the sector beast. Why did Luo Qingtong suddenly ask this? Hearing this, Luo Qingtong suddenly raised her eyebrows. No? She thought about the words that had been turned into lines to fill in the mural. Could it be that the sector beast was something taboo that couldn't even be mentioned? That was why Zhuge Shisan had turned it into a line of writing and only mentioned it on the mural without explaining what it was. As Luo Qingtong was thinking, she heard Little Pig, who was next to her, suddenly jump over. Sector beast? Little Pig was squatting there and shaking off the dirt on his body. He loved to show off. The thick layer of dirt on his body was almost wrapping him into a mud pig. At this moment, he was busy patting and rubbing himself. He didn't forget to order the corpse puppet of the great Yong Saint around as a coolie, asking it to pat the dust on his body. He was patting himself vigorously. When he heard Luo Qingtong say the two words, sector beast, he suddenly jumped up and rushed to Luo Qingtong with his 4 little hooves. Did you just say sector beast? He widened his eyes. Yes. Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows and looked at him. You know? Of course he knew. Sector beast. F***ck. This broken place, no, there are sector beasts in the true Spill continent. F***ck, this is as unbelievable as a golden phoenix flying out of a grass nest. Little Pig's heart was full of disbelief. It was because he knew what the sector beast was that he couldn't believe it. Oh my god, oh my god. Luo Qingtong looked at its shocked expression, and her willowy eyebrows rose even higher. What the hell is that thing? That's not a thing. Bah, I'm not saying it's not a thing. In truth, that thing is the embodiment of the origin. Little Pig told Luo Qingtong everything he knew about the sector beasts. That's it. Sector beast, a beast of a world. Once you control the sector beast, it is equivalent to having an origin space that completely belongs to you. Whether it's used against the enemy or to nurture one's own forces, it's very beneficial. Not only that, but every sector beast has its own power of origin, and this power can be lent to its master. In short, there are many benefits. Little Pig almost jumped up when he said this. Master, let's get out of here quickly. The treasure in the land of the fallen immortals is actually a sector beast. Oh my god. Let's hurry up and get this sector beast while no one knows about it. No wonder these foreign powerhouses all died here and were unwilling to divulge any information, allowing this land of the fallen immortals to stay safe and sound in the true Spill continent. F***ck, who knew that such a heaven-defying treasure would not be divulged to outsiders. Even its own parents wouldn't tell, let alone others. She would definitely rot in her stomach and die. Chapter 21:15. Even if she couldn't get it, there was no need to give it to someone else. Wasn't that the case? If Zhuge Shursan hadn't mentioned it in his inheritance, Luo Qingtong probably wouldn't have known what the treasure was. Besides, with the mural being pasted to such a state, who else could see what the mural was trying to express except for Luo Qingtong? Little Pig had reason to be suspicious. The mural was painted by Zhuge Shursan before his death. Later on, he regretted it and pasted the mural to such a state. Little Pig hung on Luo Qingtong's thigh and squealed. Looking at its despicable appearance, Luo Qingtong couldn't help but flick it away. Of course, I know that. Realm beast? This was indeed a good thing. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent, and the corners of her mouth were slightly raised. But before that, she had to increase her strength first and then leave this place. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong suddenly said to Yun Shi, hurry up and increase your strength according to the energy of these blood-colored immortal jade bones. Yun Shi's strength was really too low. Luo Qingtong had given her some of the blood-colored immortal jade bones of various grades. Let's see how much she can improve. It was a pity that there were no demonic beasts in the land of the deceased immortals. Otherwise, if Yun Shi could contract with a powerful demonic beast, they would be able to do whatever they wanted in the land of the deceased immortals. After all, the beast mark inheritance that Yun Shi inherited from Zhuge Shursan wasn't limited by her own strength. Instead, it was based on the level of Zhuge Shursan's beast mark. Zhuge Shursan's strength was incomparably powerful. Yun Shi didn't know what level he was above the venerable realm. The level of the demonic beast that his beast mark could contract with must be extremely powerful. Luo Qingtong felt a little regretful as she thought of this. But in this world, 8 or 9 out of 10 things didn't go your way. It was impossible for everything good to happen to you. Luo Qingtong didn't think too much about it. She quickly took the largest blood-colored immortal jade bone fragment and prepared to cultivate. But before that, she had Little Pig and the great Yong corpse puppet saint dig up the earth to the entrance of the tunnel and drag down the 4 crushed Yin corpse beasts and Yin corpses. To the corpse puppet of the great Yong saint, it was a great supplement. It could increase one's strength. This great Yong saint's corpse puppet was refined by Feng Wuan using the blood of his kin. It was extremely Yin and demonic, and incomparably vicious. Luo Qingtong didn't know what level it would reach in the future. When Feng Yuan condensed this corpse puppet back then, it was most likely for the sake of helping him. But he didn't expect that Luo Qingtong would benefit from it. With such a valiant corpse puppet by her side, it was a very advantageous thing for Luo Qingtong. It was convenient for her to do anything. Just like before, if this corpse puppet didn't know pain and death and blocked in front of her, Luo Qingtong wouldn't have been able to dodge the attacks of the beast-taming King's Valley members so easily and smoothly. After instructing Little Pig, Luo Qingtong began to cultivate. The pitiful little pig had just shaken off the dust on its body. When it heard Luo Qingtong's words, it instantly began to howl. However, it didn't dare to disobey Luo Qingtong's orders. It could only whimper and lead the great Yong Saint's corpse puppet to dig a hole. Chapter 21:16. She knew that she was able to have such an opportunity because of luck. Luo Qingtong didn't have anyone else to entrust it to, and it just so happened that the people of beast-taming King's Valley came to snatch it, so this beast-taming inheritance was given to her. She didn't want to let down this lucky gift that could change her fate. At the same time, she was grateful to Luo Qingtong for the rest of her life. It was the girl who gave her this opportunity to change her fate. Otherwise, with Luo Qingtong's ability, Yunxi had an inexplicable feeling that even if the people of beast-taming King's Valley obtained this beast mark inheritance, they might not be able to do anything to Luo Qingtong. This feeling was very strange. After all, with the strength of the people of beast-taming King's Valley, after obtaining the beast mark inheritance, and being able to control the Yin Corpse and the 4 Yin Corpse beasts, how could they not be able to do anything to Luo Qingtong? But Yunxi had this feeling. In fact, her feeling was not wrong. If there was really no other way, Luo Qingtong would most likely release the seal and use the real body of Little Pig. However, in that case, the entire land of the deceased immortals would also be affected and collapse. For Luo Qingtong, the gains would not make up for the losses. That was why she chose to give the beast mark inheritance to Yunxi. After all, for others, the beast mark inheritance was indeed very precious. But for Luo Qingtong, this beast mark inheritance and Zhuge Shisan's beast-taming method were of little value. The only attraction was that Zhuge Shisan's beast mark inheritance level was relatively high, and it could allow Luo Qingtong to contract with a demonic beast that was far stronger than her and not restricted. That was all. That was why she gave this beast-taming method to Yunxi without hesitation. And while Luo Qingtong and Yunxi were cultivating and improving underground, outside the forbidden area of the land of the deceased immortals, a group of people gathered there, looking in shock at the scene in front of them where dragons and phoenixes were flying, hundreds of beasts were galloping, and thousands of birds were singing in unison. These scenes of heaven and earth appeared in front of everyone through the dense fog in the forbidden area, making them look on in disbelief. In the eyes of the sects in the hidden world, such a scene was something they had never even heard of, let alone seen. A first-class sect's disciple said as if he was dreaming, "It said that there might be divine beasts in the forbidden area, but how could ordinary divine beasts have such power? This is simply terrifying." Yeah. Beside him, another person from a first-class sect added, "Look, those flying in the sky are all divine beasts. Oh my God! There are so many divine beasts. What kind of treasure is inside?" The people from the various sects were shocked, while the beast-tamer King Guguju and the others were pleasantly surprised. A rare treasure. This is definitely a rare treasure. Beast-tamer King Guguju and the others were overjoyed. Their strength had just increased, and they actually encountered such a good thing. Once the treasures in this forbidden area appeared, who among the numerous sects here would be able to compete with them? First-class sects. However, their beast-tamer King Valley was already the leader among the first-class sects before. Now that they had obtained the 5th beast-taming method from the depths of the cave, combined with the 4 beast-taming methods they had obtained before, their strength immediately increased by several times. They could even command a group of demonic beasts as if they were their own arms. Chapter 21:17. Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu sneered. Aside from their own contracted beasts, there were also beasts that had escaped the control of the Beast Tamer Valley's disciples, but were forcibly summoned back by them. The upper echelons of the Beast Tamer Valley controlled all of the disciples' beasts. Unless the aura of the Beast Tamer art was removed from the beasts' bodies, the beasts that had escaped the control of the Beast Tamer Valley's disciples would still be summoned back at the command of the upper echelons. There was no way to escape their control. This was because the Beast Tamer art that the Beast Tamer Valley's disciples cultivated was progressively more powerful. The upper echelons had absolute control over the beasts. Therefore, even the lower echelons of the Beast Tamer Valley would be wiped out. However, with these beasts around, as long as they obeyed their orders, the Beast Tamer Valley's strength would not be weaker than any of the first-rate sects here. Boom! Just as everyone was pleasantly surprised and shocked, the black fog in the Forbidden Zone suddenly surged violently. Then, the endless fog completely disappeared in an instant. That's right, the fog that was strong enough to kill anyone with the immortal Jade Bones aura disappeared in an instant. In the past, when the land of the fallen immortals was about to open halfway, the aura of the Forbidden Zone would weaken for a period of time. However, even if the aura of the Forbidden Zone was weak, it was still much thicker than other places in the land of the fallen immortals. It was so dark that one couldn't even see their fingers in front of them. Not only that, but the aura of the immortal Jade Bone would also be depleted many times over. Because of this, those who entered couldn't see anything at all, and couldn't defend against the attacks from the dark. But now, the aura had all disappeared. A boundless, incomparably vast forbidden area was revealed. When the fog in the Forbidden Zone disappeared, the eyes of the people from the various sects lit up. It's open. The passage to the Forbidden Zone is open. Everyone's heart was filled with indescribable joy. After so many years, this was the first time they saw the Forbidden Zone so clearly. It was a scene of lush greenery and flowers, full of vitality. There was a large patch of green grass in front of them. Such a scene was naturally very common outside the land of the fallen immortals. But now, it had appeared in the land of the fallen immortals, which was full of death and evil energy. It was shocking. At the same time, it also allowed everyone to know exactly how extraordinary the treasure in the forbidden area was. Turning the rotten into the miraculous, turning hostility into peace. This was a method of creation. If they were able to obtain the treasures within this restricted area, they would probably be able to ascend to the heavens in a single bound. At the thought of this, everyone's gazes became even more fervent as they looked at the Forbidden Zone. When the Beast Taming King's Valley's members saw this scene, they couldn't help but laugh. Ha ha ha. Sure enough, even without Luo Qingtong's treasure map, we can still find the location of the treasure. Let's go. As they spoke, they immediately urged their contracted beasts and other demonic beasts towards the forbidden area. Seeing this scene, the rest of the people also scrambled to rush towards the center. At this time, no one cared about the terrifying danger in the Forbidden Zone. After all, the temptation of treasures was right in front of him. Chapter 21:18. Under such circumstances, they were willing to take a gamble. In the Sky Yuan Sect's team, Su Yu and the others looked at Luo Qingtong's figure among the many sects around them. Their faces suddenly became very solemn. Master didn't come. How is this possible? Su Yu and the others' faces were full of disbelief. They originally thought that they would see Luo Qingtong here, but they didn't expect that the girl's figure didn't appear at all. If it was because of the Beast Taming King's Valley's people, Luo Qingtong couldn't appear with her original appearance. But they waited until now, but they didn't meet anyone who took the initiative to contact them. Could it be that Master really wasn't here? But such a big thing happened in the forbidden area, it didn't make sense that Master couldn't rush over. Everyone was very worried, they didn't know if Luo Qingtong had encountered any danger in the graveyard of immortals. Their hearts were heavy with worry, and so was the Grand Supreme Dean. The little child of the evil doctor is actually not here. How is this possible? With such a big movement, there was no way that Luo Qingtong didn't know. For a moment, the Grand Supreme Dean deeply suspected that something had happened to Luo Qingtong. Especially when he saw the beast-taming King's Valley's people being so arrogant and high-spirited, he couldn't help but feel a burst of fear and trepidation. Oh my God, please don't let anything happen to that girl. Otherwise, when he went out, how would he explain to Yi Qianxian? Instead, it was Bai Suqing who comforted him. All right, you guys don't have to worry about groundless things. That girl Luo Qingtong might not be in trouble. But, she frowned and looked at the scene where the sky light phenomenon appeared. I don't know if this phenomenon was caused by her. If so, then it's going to be troublesome. With so many people rushing to the place where the treasure was, Luo Qingtong couldn't withstand it. Bai Suqing's voice resounded. Grand Supreme Dean and the others instantly recalled that Luo Qingtong had a treasure map in her hands. Now that the treasures in the forbidden area suddenly moved, could it be Luo Qingtong's doing? If that was the case, it would be like what Bai Suqing said. It would be troublesome. One had to know that this was a sect from the entire hidden world. Most of the sects in the hidden world, other than those that were especially weak, were all here. If Luo Qingtong really found the treasure, it would be impossible for her to snatch it away from so many people. Thinking about it, the Grand Dean wasn't worried that Luo Qingtong didn't come because she was in danger. Instead, he was more worried about her safety. Oh my God, quick quick quick. Let's hurry up and follow them. That little child of the evil doctor, could it really be her doing? The Grand Supreme Dean's heart thumped even harder. The crowd hurriedly followed the people of the Sky Yuan sect, mixed with the other sects' teams, and rushed into the forbidden area. While the crowd was rushing into the forbidden area, under the shattered stars valley, the huge blood-colored immortal jade bone fragment in Luo Qingtong's hand was constantly shrinking. Because this blood-colored immortal jade bone fragment contained a huge amount of qi and blood, it was much easier to absorb and transform than ordinary immortal jade bones. Otherwise, Luo Qingtong wouldn't dare to absorb and break through in the land of the deceased immortals. Otherwise, what if she accidentally missed the time? Chapter 21:19. Luo Qingtong's body was surrounded by an extremely dense aura. Her entire body seemed to be wrapped in a dense fog. That boundless power directly surrounded Luo Qingtong, seeping into her bones from her limbs and bones. In this way, it improved and enhanced Luo Qingtong's physique. At the same time, wave after wave of extremely powerful blood energy directly entered Luo Qingtong's body, filling up all of her meridians. This blood energy was all refined into a formless and colorless power due to the existence of the blood-colored immortal jade bone. It didn't carry any aura. Once it entered Luo Qingtong's body, it immediately turned into her own blood energy, completely merging with her body. During this process, Luo Qingtong's body and strength were continuously strengthened and enhanced. At the same time, the comprehension of the power and realm within the blood-colored immortal jade bone continuously poured into her mind. It automatically filled her spiritual power, entering the depths of her soul. Luo Qingtong's spiritual power and soul power naturally merged with these experiences and comprehensions, turning them into her own. Her body, strength, and spiritual power all increased at the same time. The aura of power around Luo Qingtong's body was like a vast wave, constantly rising and rising. This kind of improvement didn't have any side effects or hidden worries. Just like in Wuxia novels, Luo Qingtong naturally inherited all of the power, aura, and experiences within the blood-colored immortal jade bone. Her strength and spiritual power continued to increase under this kind of infusion. Hua! Hua! The aura of power around her body rose wave after wave, constantly washing over her meridians and flesh. The comprehension and thoughts in her mind were also constantly attacking the barrier of the Sage Emperor realm. The power in her body became more and more abundant, more and more turbulent, and more difficult to control. The power that was about to overflow, as long as she could find an exit, she could immediately break out of the cocoon and become a butterfly, ascending to another level of power. Even though Luo Qingtong had all kinds of experiences and understandings from the bloody land of the deceased immortals, it wasn't easy for her to reach this step. In Luo Qingtong's tightly shut eyes, her blood-red pupils were spinning rapidly. Its eyes constantly reflected the scenes in her mind where countless experts had attempted to break through to the Saint Emperor realm. Countless experiences and insights were constantly magnified and slowed down in her eyes. Combined with Luo Qingtong's current physical condition, the power of the realm was constantly being adjusted and evolved. He was looking for the final breakthrough. While Luo Qingtong was making breakthroughs, Little Pig led the corpse puppet of the great young saint and found the 4 Yin corpse beasts and Yin corpses buried under the rubble and dragged them out. The corpse puppet of the great young saint succumbed to its instincts and began to devour the 4 Yin corpse beasts and Zhuge Shisan's Yin corpse. This was because Luo Qingtong had told them to leave the corpses intact. So this time, the corpse puppet of the great young saint only sucked the Yin qi in their bodies, and didn't completely tear their corpses apart. The injuries in its body were constantly being healed because of the Yin corpse qi entering it. Chapter 21-20. While one person and one corpse were breaking through, Yun Shi was doing the same. The weaker she was, the faster she could break through. In addition to the beast mark inheritance, Zhuge Shisan had left behind information about cultivation and his breakthrough experience. Yun Shi did not encounter any bottlenecks in her cultivation of the heaven and earth beast taming technique. This was the benefit of the beast mark inheritance. Of course, this was also because Luo Qingtong had provided her with a large amount of blood immortal jade bones. She only needed to absorb them directly to transform them into her own strength. She did not need to slowly accumulate strength. Otherwise, even if she had all of Zhuge Shisan's cultivation information and breakthrough experience, she would not be able to increase her strength so easily. While Luo Qingtong and the other two were increasing their powers, the group of people from the various sects who had rushed into the restricted area also met with obstacles. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Not long after they had rushed into the forbidden area, rays of light immediately swept past. In an instant, a demonic beast from the beast-taming valley who was rushing at the front let out a blood-curdling scream, and then fell from the sky with a wail. The people from the beast-taming valley were shocked. Then, they saw the demonic beast's body expanding in front of them, and then with a boom, it exploded into pieces. Flesh and blood splattered all over the sky, and then the screams of others rang out. There's something. It's entered our bodies. Someone shouted in panic. Their bodies continued to expand, and their meridians were filled with an unknown power that kept accumulating and blocking, and then quickly filled their bodies. Bang! 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 Sounds of explosions rang out one after another. And at this time, the flying rays of light were also noticed by everyone. It's them. They rushed into our bodies and caused the power in our bodies to go out of control. An elder from a first-class clan barely blocked the attack of a ray of light, and then, in front of everyone, the ray of light suddenly revealed its original form. It turned out that it was a completely transparent shadow of a divine beast. Screech! It was the shadow of a phoenix bathed in fire. After the attack was barely blocked by the elder from the first-class clan, it transformed into its own body, and then turned into a ray of light again, and swept towards him. Boom! This time, the elder from a first-class sect was unable to block its attack. After the stream of light entered his body, his face instantly turned to one of horror. My power, my power! Before he could finish his words, everyone saw that he could no longer use the power in his body. The power attack in his hand disappeared. At the same time, more streams of light entered his body. Then, with a boom, his body exploded into pieces in front of everyone. Seeing this scene, everyone felt their hair stand on end. These flowing lights were actually all divine beast phantoms. It was a form of power. This power spread throughout the entire Forbidden Zone. Everyone who entered this Forbidden Zone would be attacked by this power. No wonder those who entered the Forbidden Zone by mistake all died. Even if there were some lucky survivors, they would be completely crippled. After all, to be able to take the form of a divine beast, how high was the essence of this power? Once it entered the body, there was no way to dispel it. Being able to survive was already a great fortune. Wasn't it normal to become a cripple? Everyone's hearts suddenly sank as they thought about it. If there were no accidents, those experts from the extraterritorial region would have died under these flowing lights. Oh my God, what exactly was the treasure in this Forbidden Zone? It had such power. Everyone's heart sank. Chapter 21-21. At this moment, a voice was heard. Wait, I remember now. By Suching from Sky Yuan's sect and the chief disciple of Sky Yuan's sect, Zhu Yi, whom she likes. Weren't they attacked by this power previously? They were healed later on. Do the people from Sky Yuan's sect have a way to deal with this power? As this voice was heard, the people from the various sects looked in the direction of the people from Sky Yuan's sect. To be more precise, he was looking in the direction of Bai Suching and the Supreme Dean. Seeing this, the faces of the Grand Supreme Dean and Bai Suching darkened immediately. Seeing that these people were about to gang up and force them, Bai Suching said decisively, "Our injuries have indeed been healed." But, at this point, she suddenly paused and looked at the people from the various sects who were overjoyed and said, "The person who healed our injuries is Luo Qingtong. You should have heard about this before, right? She is not in the team from Sky Yuan's sect now. If you want to know how to deal with this power, the people from Sky Yuan's sect really don't know." Hearing this, the people from the various sects were instantly disappointed. They did want the people from Sky Yuan's sect to hand over the power to deal with the divine beast shadow. After all, if Bai Suching and Zhu Yi's injuries could be healed, it meant that the power in their bodies could be removed. If this was the case, they would not be afraid that they would explode from the power of the divine beast shadow. However, Bai Suching's words shattered their fantasies. The people then remembered that Luo Qingtong's previous identity in Sky Yuan's sect was the honorary guest elder. How did this title come about? Wasn't it to treat Bai Suching and the Grand Supreme Dean? However, they only knew that Luo Qingtong removed the power in Bai Suching and the Grand Supreme Dean's body and healed the injuries in the hidden world that the alchemists were helpless against. However, they did not know that this power was the power of the divine beast shadow. One should know that the power in the forbidden area was so powerful and terrifying. Furthermore, the treasures in the Forbidden Zone had suddenly reacted, giving them a chance to enter the Forbidden Zone. How could they allow the beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace to force Luo Qingtong away? Everyone's faces were filled with regret. The beast-tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others had ugly expressions on their faces. Luo Qingtong was unexpectedly able to deal with the power of these mythological beasts. If they had known this would happen, they would have captured Luo Qingtong in the Broken Star Valley even if they had given up the beast-taming inheritance. Now that the young girl was dead, they had no way to deal with the streaks of light that were coming at them. Just as everyone's faces were filled with disappointment and frustration, a sharp voice suddenly rang out from the Sky Yuan sect's team. "No, no. You're lying." Chen Tong rushed out of the Heavenly Yuan sect's group like a madman. "Don't believe them. They're lying to you." Chen Tong's face was filled with extreme fear. The streaks of light that had turned into shadows and plunged into other people's bodies had caused their deaths, causing extreme fear in his heart. He did not want to become one of those people. Don't be fooled by them. Chapter 21-22. These people are all Luo Qingtong's men. She was the one who entrusted them to the Sky Yuan sect so that they could train and improve with us. Just now, I saw with my own eyes that a stream of light suddenly stopped when it was about to enter one of their bodies. They definitely have a way to deal with these powers. Chen Tong's words immediately made everyone look at Su Yu and the rest. The gazes of the latter and the others darkened at this moment. Su Yu and the rest had indeed realized that something was wrong. When those streaks of light rushed over, there should have been some among them who would not have been able to escape. However, for some reason, those streams of light suddenly stopped when they were rushing towards them. Then, they swept past them and went around them. No one knew why this was happening. However, thinking about it, this should have something to do with Luo Qingtong. The young lady had always liked to plan ahead and was cautious in her actions. No one knew what she had done to prevent those streams of light from going around them. Everyone was surprised and delighted. Originally, they had planned to secretly tell the Grand Supreme Dean and Bai Suqing about this after everyone had questioned them. When the time came, they would keep it a secret and quietly protect the people of the Sky Yuan sect so that they could charge forward unscathed. For this reason, Su Yu and the rest had deliberately spread out and surrounded the people of the Sky Yuan sect. This was so that they would not be injured. Before this, those who were killed by those streams of light could only consider themselves unlucky. However, who would have thought that Chen Tong had seen the process of those streams of light avoiding them and had told them about it? Was this man an idiot? Su Yu and the rest were clenching their teeth so hard that they were about to break. However, Chen Tong did not care so much. He had previously offended Luo Qingtong and wanted to chase away Su Yu and the rest after Luo Qingtong had left. He did not believe that Su Yu and the rest would protect him. After discovering their strangeness, his heart was first filled with joy, then a wave of shock and anger. He was afraid that Su Yu and the others wouldn't be willing to protect him. If that happened, wouldn't he die a miserable death? If he didn't know that Su Yu and the others were able to avoid the attacks of the flashing lights, it would have been fine. But now that he knew, how could he be willing to give up? He immediately jumped out. He told them all about the strangeness of Su Yu and the others, including their identities. His purpose was to prevent Su Yu and the others from hiding anything. When the time came, he could only protect everyone. In this way, he was naturally not afraid of being abandoned. When the people from the Sky Yuan sect heard his words, they were first stunned. Then, they looked at the formation of Su Yu and the others. He immediately understood what was going on. Damn this Chen Tong. The group of people from the Sky Yuan sect even had the urge to kill him. This was especially true for the Heaven Branch sect master, Bai Suqing, and the Grand Supreme Dean. The upper echelons of the Heavenly Yuan sect could naturally tell that Su Yu and the others were secretly protecting them. As long as Chen Tong did not say anything, they would definitely not be harmed. In the end, this bastard betrayed Su Yu and the others. The Sky Yuan sect master and the others were so angry that they were trembling. The Grand Supreme Dean was about to rush out and kill Chen Tong. This piece of trash. I shouldn't have worried about the sect and thought that there was no legitimate reason not to attack him. What bullsh*** legitimate reason? Chapter 21-23. However, before the Grand Supreme Dean could rush over, the people from Beast-Taming King Valley had already made their move. Ha ha ha. Good, good, good. Beast-Taming King Gu Guzhu and the others sneered. Luo Qingtong's people? Sky Yuan sect, you've hidden your strength well. Are you trying to monopolize the treasures? As they spoke, their spiritual energy formed a giant palm and pressed down on Su Yu and the others. People from Sky Yuan sect, get lost or we'll kill without mercy. Beast-Taming King Gu Guzhu and the others sneered. They didn't care about the people from Sky Yuan sect at this moment. So what if they killed them all? Since they were protecting Luo Qingtong's people, they should know the price of offending beast-taming King Valley. Moreover, as long as Su Yu and the others were in their hands, those fleeting lights couldn't do anything to them and the treasures would be theirs. So what if they had to deal with the people from Sky Yuan Sect? If they knew what was good for them and didn't stop them from capturing Su Yu and the others, it would be fine. But if they dared to stop them, they couldn't blame them for being ruthless. Beast-taming King Gu Guju and the others had a ruthless expression on their faces. When they attacked, the people from the other sects came to their senses and hurriedly jumped out to grab them. The fleeting lights were too powerful. If Su Yu and the others didn't have a way to avoid them, they wouldn't even be able to leave this place alive, let alone obtain the treasures. The crowd rushed towards the people from Sky Yuan Sect, targeting Su Yu and the others. Seeing this scene, the people from Sky Yuan Sect had ugly expressions. Especially the Sky Yuan Sect master and the others. They were in a dilemma. If they went in, they would protect Su Yu and the others. However, they would be besieged and robbed by so many sections. Their sect couldn't do anything at all. However, if they retreated, they had promised Luo Qingtong that they would protect Su Yu and the others. In their current situation, without Su Yu and the others, how could they survive in this forbidden area? When they thought of this, they realized that no matter what they chose, they would die. Immediately, he was angry, anxious, and furious. At this moment, Su Yu's voice suddenly rang out. "All of you, stop." Su Yu's voice was cold and deep. Her crisp voice carried an icy aura, like a jade bead falling to the ground. Her sonorous and powerful voice carried the determination to destroy jade and common stone. "If you don't stop, we will all end our lives here." As they spoke, everyone realized that Su Yu and the others had actually placed their palms on their carotid arteries. The energy between his fingers spat out slightly and stretched across their necks. With just a light stroke, all of them would immediately die. Seeing this, all the sects including the beast-taming King's Valley stopped their attacks. "Are you threatening us?" Beast-tamer King Gu Guju's expression turned ugly. "That's right, we are threatening you." Su Yu sneered. "If you don't want to be threatened, feel free to continue attacking." Hearing this, beast-tamer King Gu Guju's expression turned even uglier. They still needed Su Yu and the others to help them block the attacks of the divine beast shadows. Of course, they couldn't let the other party and the others die. It seemed that they had no choice but to accept the other party's threat. Thinking of this, beast-tamer King Gu Guju's expression was unusually gloomy and cold. Chapter 21-24. He said coldly, "What do you want to do?" The beast-tamer King Gu Guju's expression was cold. As he asked, he secretly calculated whether he could leave one or two alive before Su Yu and the others acted. As long as he could leave one or two alive, he would definitely let the other party know what it meant to be unable to live and unable to die. At that time, they could only obediently spit out what they knew. As long as he knew how the other party could avoid these flashes of light. Even if these people were all dead, what was the big deal? Luo Qingtong's people, even if they didn't want to die, he would make them die miserably. The only difference was whether they would die now or after their value had been squeezed dry. The beast-tamer King Gu Guju thought, his expression cold. Su Yu saw through his thoughts and sneered, "The beast-tamer King Gu Guju. You don't have to think about how to leave one or two of us alive to force us to tell you how to avoid those powers. I'm not afraid to tell you. These are all the precautions that our master has taken for us in advance. She didn't tell any of us. It's useless even if you torture us to death. In addition, most of us have made a heavenly oath to our master. As long as we have a thought, we can be obliterated by the heavens. You want to threaten us? Dream on." The beast-tamer King Gu Guju's teeth were about to break when he heard Su Yu's words. He was so angry that he laughed and said, "Good. You're really like your master." You're really worthy of being that bitch Luo Qingtong's people. You really have her style. Unfortunately, that B*TCH was already dead. What heavenly oath, she had already given up. However, in order to prevent Su Yu and the others from dying together, they chose to leave with Luo Qingtong. The beast tamer King Gu Guzhu didn't tell them that Luo Qingtong was already dead. The other party said that they didn't know how to avoid those flashes of light, which made the beast tamer King Gu Guzhu very afraid. Luo Qingtong was already dead. If Su Yu and the others also didn't know how to avoid those flashes of light, then when they died, they would have to be buried with them. Not only would they not get the treasure, but they would also die miserably. Thinking of this, the beast tamer King Gu Guzhu finally swallowed the malicious words in his throat. He looked at Su and the others and said, "Enough, tell me your conditions. You should know that you can't escape. If you don't want the people of the Sky Yuan sect to die with you, you'd better behave." Su Yu naturally knew this. Not to mention the others in the Sky Yuan sect, the Grand Dean and Bai Suqing didn't let them down at all. They even protected Luo Qingtong at all times. No matter what, they couldn't let anything happen to them. If it wasn't for this, why would Su Yu and the others negotiate with the Beast Tamer King's Valley? Based on the fact that they weren't threatened by the flashes of light in this forbidden area, if they risked their lives to escape, would the Beast Tamer King's Valley and the other sects be able to stop them? Fine. You're not allowed to touch anyone from the Sky Yuan sect. Also, I want him. Chapter 21-25. When Su Yu pointed at him, Chen Tong was scared out of his wits. He looked in the direction of Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others in panic and shouted anxiously, "Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu, you have to save me. I exposed their identities for all of you. Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu, everyone, you don't have to be afraid of them. They must be trying to scare you. They definitely won't dare to die. You can threaten them with the people of the Sky Yuan sect. If they dare to die, then cut the people of the Sky Yuan sect into pieces. For example, Zhu Yi and Bai Suqing. They will definitely care about the two of them." Chen Tong's voice was almost distorted into a miserable howl at the end. His heart was truly filled with fear. He never thought that Su Yu and the others would use this to threaten Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others. Originally, he thought that he would expose Su Yu and the others' identities. In this way, he could be considered to have abandoned the dark and joined the side of Beast Tamer King Valley. At that time, Beast Tamer King Valley would take action and control Su Yu and the others, along with the people of the other sections. The people of the Sky Yuan sect and Su Yu would definitely not be able to resist. At that time, he would be able to follow behind Beast Tamer King Valley and the other sects and enjoy the great benefits brought by Su Yu and the others. However, who would have thought that Su Yu and the others would use death to threaten Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others? The latter and the others did not dare to act rashly. He, the bird that jumped out, was afraid that he would be killed. Chen Tong's voice was unusually sharp and miserable. He was almost crying bitterly as he knelt on the ground. However, Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others were not the slightest bit moved. Using the people of the Sky Yuan sect to threaten Su Yu and the others? What if the other party was not afraid of being threatened and would rather die together? Now, Su Yu and the others had grasped their pulse and were using their own lives to gamble with the lives of the other sects. Who would be willing to take this risk? Moreover, as long as they agreed to Su Yu and the others' conditions, they might be able to obtain the treasure in the forbidden area. Was there a need to choose who was better and who was worse? Who did Chen Tong think he was? Was it worth it for them to go against Su Yu and the others with their lives? There was a hole in the head's brain. The crowd simply couldn't be bothered with Chen Tong. What's more, he called out Su Yu and the others' identities for himself. It was impossible for everyone to not see it. If he didn't have a grudge with Su Yu and the others, why would he expose their identities? Su and Su Yu and the others is of S and the others were of ofs and the others ofs and the others s's. Of the of his s of the of his to two of the of the to his of the two of ofs. Even if he wanted to deal with him, it wouldn't be at this moment. What an idiot. The group of people from Beast Tamer King Valley and the other sects did not even look at Chentong. Beast Tamer King Gu Guju waved his hand and threw him in front of Su Yu. I'll leave him to you. You can do whatever you want with him. His expression was cold as if he was talking about a dead object and not the life or death of a living person. Chapter 21-26. This feeling reached its peak when Su Yu sneered and told him that he did not need to do this to enjoy their protection. Ah! Impossible. This is impossible. You must be lying to me. Chentong shouted with a look of despair. He could not believe that he had dug a hole and buried himself in it. If he did not need to snitch to enjoy the protection of Su Yu and the others, why did he jump out in the first place? Chentong was going crazy as he thought about it. However, his subconscious was telling him that Su Yu might be telling the truth. After all, there was no need for her to lie to him. Also, after casting aside his initial guilty conscience, he realized that Su Yu and the others did not need to take the risk of accidentally hurting the other people from the Sky Yuan sect by hiding their abilities while secretly harming him. What if there was a mistake? So, everything was just him measuring the stature of a gentleman with his own yardstick? Looking at the group of people from the Sky Yuan sect who looked as if they wanted to skin him alive, Chentong realized that he had made a foolish decision previously. However, there was no medicine for regret now. Su Yu did not kill him. Instead, she handed him over to the people from the Sky Yuan sect. He believed that the people from the Sky Yuan sect, who had almost been killed by him, would let him know how the word death was written. Especially the Grand Supreme Dean and Bai Suching, they would definitely not let him off easily. Cut him into pieces? He would have to try it himself. After dealing with Chentong, Su Yu and the others set off with the group of people from the various sections. They were arranged to be at the outermost part of the group, forming a circle that surrounded the group of people from the various sections. They slowly walked in the direction of the treasure. The people from the Sky Yuan sect were arranged to be behind them. If Su Yu and the others dared to deliberately let in the power of the mythical beast's shadow, the people from the Sky Yuan sect would be the first to die. The group of people walked in the direction of the treasure's strange phenomenon. Along the way, the flowing light and passing shadows became denser. The power contained within them became more and more terrifying. The divine beasts they had transformed into were becoming more and more lifelike. When they saw the shadow of a huge flaming divine beast with a phoenix tail sweep past them, they were stunned. The power of that feather was enough to burn them to ashes. Only now did everyone know exactly how those xenorace experts from before had died. And he died so cleanly. When they neared the location of the heaven and earth anomaly, everyone was even more shocked by the scene before them. Ahead of them was a dense mass of corpses. There were piles upon piles of corpses. It was unknown how many people had died here. As far as the eye could see, the ground was actually paved with white bones. The ground stretched far into the distance. A faintly discernible ball of light was jumping around like a living thing in everyone's eyes. It was surrounded by countless origin energies and the aura of laws. Streams of energy were emitted from its body, turning into a stream of light. Then, after circling around it, it whistled and turned into a huge mythical beast phantom, rushing outside. So this was where the power of the mythical beast phantom came from. The beast tamer King Gu Guju was almost drooling as he looked at the ball of light that was constantly shrinking and flickering in midair. He could not wait to urge Su Yu and the others to rush forward. Chapter 21-27. At this moment, in the underground of the Shattered Star Valley, Luo Qingtong's aura had reached its peak. The power that belonged to a Saint King had already been raised to the limit within her body, and it was still increasing. The terrifying power was constantly being suppressed in Luo Qingtong's body. Boom! Just as Luo Qingtong's bones were being pressed to the extreme by the power and almost couldn't bear the heavy load, Luo Qingtong's blood-red eyes suddenly opened. In an instant, the blood-red eyes in her eyes started to spin rapidly. The blood-red color that spread out was like the blood that flowed out from a boundless purgatory. It was thick to the extreme, and it was also cold and evil to the extreme. In the next second, the last breakthrough point in Luo Qingtong's body was found. Bang! Luo Qingtong's aura and power were all directed towards the spot she had found at this moment. Breaking the barrier, splitting the realm, advancing to the Holy Emperor realm. Boom! Luo Qingtong's qi, blood, and strength almost flowed backwards in an instant. They went through her limbs and bones and rushed towards the point inside her body. Bang! As the violent aura splashed, Luo Qingtong's aura and strength let out an explosive sound like fine iron cracking. The aura barrier that enveloped her was instantly covered with spiderwebs. It was as if she had been reborn. Another power that far surpassed this aura was shockingly expanding from within her body bit by bit. It had swallowed up all the Saint Emperor's strength and caused it to explode. Boom! As the new power came out of Luo Qingtong's body, the aura around Luo Qingtong also changed dramatically in an instant. Holy Emperor Realm. Devouring the Holy Emperor Realm. Luo Qingtong's body naturally revealed an extraordinary and awe-inspiring aura. Bang! Luo Qingtong turned her hand and a black and white long sword appeared in her hand. With the help of the power of devouring the Holy Emperor Realm, Luo Qingtong raised her hand and waved. Boom! An extremely cold and chilling power radiance blasted out from the life and death dual right sword in her hand, which had transformed into a death blade. Bang! It was like a calm lake stirring up thousands of waves. The waves of sword qi shot out from Luo Qingtong's hand, annihilating and transforming one layer after another. Finally, they turned into 1,000-mile wave and 1,000-mile hurricane. They roared violently and blasted towards the gravel and soil in front of the tunnel. The qi rolled up thousands of waves. Countless gravel and soil were blasted back by Luo Qingtong's sword. At this moment, if someone were to stand in the deepest part of the Broken Stars Valley, he would find that the pile of rubble on the ground was shaking violently. A huge force surged from the bottom to the top. It was like a vast and majestic dragon that was about to leap up and surge upwards with all its might. At this moment, the huge piles of rocks and mud that had been smashed into the ground began to swell up. Then, with a bang, they suddenly exploded. At this moment, a blood-red figure rushed out from the ground. It was none other than Luo Qingtong. Chapter 21-28. Bang! 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 The long sword in her hand danced wildly. In an instant, it shattered the huge rocks and soil that were about to fall again after exploding in midair. Berserk Sword Technique. This was a sword technique above the Holy Emperor realm that Luo Qingtong had comprehended from the blood-colored immortal jade bones. The blood-colored immortal jade bones contained a lot of information about the breakthroughs and cultivation experiences of the extraterritorial experts. Although these cultivation principles and breakthroughs were all chaotic and broken. But under Luo Qingtong's blood eye, it could be repaired and deduced. The giant blood-colored immortal jade bone obtained by Luo Qingtong was extremely large. The cultivation information of the extraterritorial experts contained in it was naturally more complete. Based on this information, Luo Qingtong naturally deduced and transformed many cultivation methods and martial techniques in it. This berserk sword technique was one of them. Named berserk, this sword technique's attack power, as the name implied, would increase exponentially. Once this sword technique was launched, both the speed and the attack power would skyrocket in an instant. Although this would consume a lot of energy. But Luo Qingtong still had the power of the blood-colored immortal jade bones in her hand to replenish it. She wasn't afraid. Under Luo Qingtong's sword, the sword light of the life and death yin-yang sword in her hand soared and suddenly turned into a sword shadow in mid-air, like thousands of pear trees blooming. Every time the sword light pointed out, a piece of rock and soil would be smashed and turned into powder under Luo Qingtong's sword light. The flying ash that filled the sky fluttered down. Luo Qingtong's aura fluctuated, and all the flying ash was bounced a few meters away. The dark tunnel entrance was exposed. Phew! I'm finally out. At this moment, Little Pig jumped out of the tunnel entrance. He finally breathed in some fresh air, didn't he? It had just taken a deep breath when it saw Luo Qingtong's figure continue to rush forward. It turned out that without the deterrence of the cave, Zhuge Shisan's arrangement in the cave had no effect. The scarlet shadows that had been blocked outside the 100-meter radius of the cave all rushed towards them. Previously, they didn't come here because of the ruins. Now that the ruins had been washed away, Luo Qingtong, a living person, had appeared in front of them. They smelled the scent of a living person and naturally rushed over. When Luo Qingtong saw them rushing over, she immediately followed them. She had just improved her strength, so she naturally had to use some things to practice. These blood-red shadows were just the right tools for her to hone her newly improved strength. Bang! Luo Qingtong pointed out her sword. In an instant, a blood-red shadow that was rushing toward her was cut into pieces by the transformed sword in her hand. At the same time, on the ground not far away, streaks of bright red blood instantly seeped out of the soil. Humph, go and pick up those bloody bones of the immortal jade. Luo Qingtong said as she continued to move the life and death yin-yang sword in her hand. Her figure had been guarding the entrance of the tunnel in the ruins from beginning to end. Chapter 21-29. Luo Qingtong's life and death yin-yang sword continued to pierce the ground in the depths of Shattered Star Valley, leaving behind bloody marks. Little Pig waved his little hooves and was happily picking up the items. Oh my, good stuff. Good stuff. These blood immortal jade bones are all good stuff. Little Pig's beady eyes were filled with joy as he watched Luo Qingtong kill the bloody shadows one after another. It was as if he was looking at priceless jewels. I love these good things, you know. Little Pig scooped up a blood-red immortal jade bone and wished he could give it a kiss. However, the blood immortal jade bone that hadn't been purified was filled with blood and evil energy. Little Pig hesitated for a long time but still didn't have the courage to bite it. Forget it, it would wait for its master to purify all of them before picking them up and slowly kissing them. My good baby. Little Pig happily skimmed across the bloody ground. With a wave of his 4 little hooves, he collected all the blood immortal jade bones into the trash ring on his little hooves. Master and servant, one killed, the other collected. Their cooperation couldn't be more perfect. Of course, there were also many bloody shadows that pounced on Little Pig. However, their mental attacks couldn't even invade Luo Qingtong's mind. So, weren't they courting death by jumping into Little Pig's body? However, before they could even occupy Little Pig's body, they were devoured by Little Pig's fearsome spiritual and soul power. Not even a splash was made as they tried to invade Little Pig's body. In the end, even those bloody shadows that had lost much of their consciousness and were only relying on their instincts to kill Luo Qingtong and Little Pig felt fear. The human and pig in front of them weren't afraid of their mental attacks at all. Not only that, but the girl in blood-red clothes was also like an Asura from hell. It was easy to see where they were. Their bodies, which weren't afraid of physical attacks, disappeared with each slash of the girl's sword. Even though these blood-red shadows did not have much consciousness, they still shuddered at the thought of this ability. They unconsciously retreated, not wanting to touch Luo Qingtong and the ruined tunnel behind her. However, Luo Qingtong was in the middle of a killing spree. How could she let them leave? These blood-colored immortal jade bones would be the foundation for Su Yu and the others to increase their strength in the future. With them around, Su Yu and the others would be able to increase their strength much faster than before. This was something that those ordinary immortal jade bones could not compare to. Therefore, as soon as they retreated, Luo Qingtong immediately rushed forward with her sword, expanding the area she occupied. Of course, she never left the ruins of the tunnel. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if these blood-colored figures saw the opportunity and rushed into the tunnel to kill the great Yong Saint's corpse puppet and Yun Shi. Luo Qingtong would not allow herself to make such a mistake. Moreover, with Luo Qingtong's current strength, she couldn't rush into the swarm of blood-colored shadows. If they all rushed into her body, Luo Qingtong wouldn't be able to withstand it. With these ruins as her base, she didn't need to face too many blood shadows. She could kill them all slowly, and eventually, she would be able to kill them all. Chapter 2130. After those bloody immortal jade bones retreated a long distance, Luo Qingtong had some free time. Suddenly, she found that the aura in the land of the fallen immortals seemed to have changed a lot. Little Pig happily picked up those bloody immortal jade bones and rushed to the edge of the Broken Star Valley. As soon as he raised his head, he saw the scene in the distance. Immediately, he widened his pair of small beady eyes. Moss! Moss! Master! He shouted and ran back to Luo Qingtong, saying anxiously, "There's a change in the Forbidden Zone. The existence of the sector beast seems to have been exposed. Ao. Let's hurry over. It seems that it's about to be born. Mamma mia! Why are we so unlucky?" They had just learned the secret of the sector beast, and it was about to belong to them. No one else knew about it at all. And the sector beast was about to be born. Holy sh*t. Holy sh*t. Little Pig was angered to death. He kept stomping his little hooves. How could he not be angry? The birth of the sector beast had attracted a lot of attention. Once the sector beast was born, it was not something that could be captured by humans. When the time came, it would naturally become the origin law of this world and leave this place easily. No one would be able to stop it. Otherwise, why would the sector beast be so precious? It was because most of the sector beasts in this world had already broken out of their shells and left when people heard about them. So what was the use of knowing about their existence and news? It was just a futile effort. Therefore, contracting a sector beast was only useful when it had not broken out of its shell. This was also the reason why the great beings from other regions were fighting for their lives here. Everyone wanted a chance to contract a sector beast. But in the end, no one got it. Luo Qingtong heard this and suddenly focused her eyes. She was in the deepest part of the Broken Star Valley. Her back was against a mountain at the end of the valley. Naturally, most of the scene in the sky was covered. That was why she didn't notice the anomaly in the Forbidden Zone. When she heard Little Pig's words, she immediately stomped her feet on the mountain wall behind her. In an instant, her figure shot up and climbed up the mountain wall. Soon, she saw the strange scene in the distant sky. As expected, a treasure has appeared. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. It was no wonder that those from the beast-taming King's Valley retreated so quickly. Luo Qingtong had been waiting in the tunnel for quite some time. She thought that the people from beast-taming King's Valley would lift up the ruins to see if she was truly dead. Unexpectedly, the beast-taming King's Valley didn't make a move in the end, saving Luo Qingtong a lot of trouble. From the looks of it, it was very likely that the sector beasts had already made their move at that time. The last rumbling sound wasn't the beast-taming King's Valley's people attacking the mountain and the ruins, but rather the huge change that happened in the forbidden area. With a quick thought, Luo Qingtong roughly understood what had happened. She narrowed her eyes and jumped down the mountain wall almost instantly. Chapter 2131. Luo Qingtong couldn't leave the two of them here. If she really couldn't, she could only wake them up. But it had been so long. Yun Shi and the Yong Saint corpse puppet should have broken through. As she thought of this, she suddenly heard two banging sounds coming from the tunnel below. Soon after, Yun Shi and the great Yong Saint corpse puppet rushed out of the tunnel. Mississippi. Yun Shi looked at Luo Qingtong and struggled for a long time. She didn't know how to call her Luo Qingtong. She had promised to be Luo Qingtong's subordinate and companion. The girl was the one who gave her a new life. Yun Shi couldn't call her by her name like before without any burden. She thought for a while and finally decided to call Luo Qingtong Mississippi. From now on, her life was sold to Luo Qingtong. Anyway, without the girl, she would have died long ago. Not in the Broken Star Valley, but even earlier. Yun Shi now knew the true identity of the Yong Saint corpse puppet. She now knew that Luo Qingtong had saved her long ago. If it hadn't been for Luo Qingtong, she would have been pushed to the Yong Saint corpse puppet and killed by Antli. Thinking of this, Yun Shi was even more grateful to Luo Qingtong. She had saved her life and given her a new life. Each of these things was worth Yun Shi's life to repay Luo Qingtong. Not to mention that Luo Qingtong had given her both. Okay. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She didn't say anything about Yun Shi's sudden change of address. She looked at Yun Shi. The latter had reached the Saint Lord realm in the process of breaking through. To an ordinary person, this increase in strength was already considered a flying speed. After all, it was impossible for ordinary people to advance from the Saint realm to the Saint Lord realm without more than 10 years of effort. Even for those with extraordinary talent, it would still take several years to do so. Because Yun Shi had inherited Zhuge Shursan's beast mark, she had automatically gained his experience and comprehension. As long as her strength could keep up, she would be able to improve. There was no need for comprehension at all. That was why he was able to improve so quickly. But Luo Qingtong still frowned as she watched. The strength of a Saint Lord was still too weak. It was a pity that he did not have enough time. Otherwise, he would have let Yun Shi directly use the power of the blood celestial jade bone to reach the holy venerate level. At that time, it would be better for them to enter the forbidden area. However, there wasn't enough time. Fortunately, Yun Shi's beast-taming inheritance could deal with people from the beast-taming King's Valley. Luo Qingtong was pleasantly surprised by the upgrade of the great Yong Saint corpse puppet. After devouring the power of the 4 Yin corpse beasts and the Zhuge 13 Yin corpses, his strength had risen to the holy venerate level. He had even obtained a trace of the exalted realm's power. Breaking through to the exalted realm in the future would not be a problem. The only pity was that the great Yong Saint level corpse puppet was unable to use this trace of exalted realm power. Because it wasn't like Zhuge Shursan's Yin corpse, which was originally transformed from an expert. The great Yong Saint corpse puppet was only considered to have obtained a trace of opportunity. Unless it broke through to the exalted realm in the future, it would not be able to use this trace of exalted realm power. Otherwise, Luo Qingtong would be able to save a lot of trouble. Let's go. Let's go to the forbidden area. After checking the progress of their breakthroughs, Luo Qingtong took Yun Shi and the great Yong Saint corpse puppet out of the Shattered Stars Valley and rushed toward the forbidden area. Chapter 2132. And at this moment, boom! In the forbidden zone, the bursts of energy that erupted from the heaven and earth became more and more intense. The spiritual energy pillar that pierced through the sky became more and more terrifying. The spiritual energy hurricane that swept out became more and more awe-inspiring. It covered the sky in the center of the forbidden zone. Rumble. The area covered by the spirit chi light pillar continued to expand. The white ball of light that stood in the center of the forbidden zone was also constantly expanding and shrinking. The increasing frequency of contraction and expansion indicated that the life born in this ball of light could be born at any time. That's right, life. Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others had already approached the center of the forbidden zone where the huge white ball of light was located. Even if they didn't look at the increasingly vast heaven and earth anomaly above their heads, they just looked at the white bones on the ground that would rather die than look at the huge white ball of light. They silently stretched out their hands and shouted, wanting to crawl toward the ball of light. Everyone could also be sure that this huge white ball of light was the treasure that caused so many powerhouses from other regions to fight with their lives on the line. In the end, all of them died here. It was also the main reason why the land of the fallen immortals was formed. The closer they got to the center of the forbidden zone, the clearer they could see the appearance of the ball of light. It was shaped like an egg, and there seemed to be something inside that was constantly swimming around. From time to time, a small bump would suddenly appear on the ball of light and then disappear. After that, a small bump would appear and then disappear again. Obviously, there was a life born in this ball of light. It was playing with it. What was this thing? A divine beast, an ancient divine beast? Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others were pleasantly surprised. They didn't know about the existence of the Sector Beast, and they had never heard of anything related to the Sector Beast. Even the Star Alliance Temple Master had only heard about it occasionally and didn't know much about it. There was no need to even mention these people who had never left the true Spill continent. The matter of the Sector Beast had nothing to do with them. They didn't know that the thing in front of them was the Sector Beast that could cause countless powerhouses from other regions to go crazy. Its rarity was even higher than that of the ancient divine beasts. After all, the ancient divine beasts could contract with humans. As for Sector Beasts, no one had ever heard of anyone being able to contract with a Sector Beast. Once a Sector Beast was born, it would immediately fly away. There was no way to capture it, and there was no way to contract it. Around the Sector Beasts that had yet to be born, there were godly beast phantoms formed by the power of the origin of heaven and earth to protect them. It could be said that in this world, almost no one could get close to an unborn Sector Beast, let alone contract with it. The bones that littered the ground were proof of that. But at this moment, this law had been broken by someone. After Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others had captured Su Yu and the others, they were now close to the center of the Forbidden Zone. They were less than a kilometer away from the gigantic ball of light. More and more white bones were piling up in the surroundings. Even after so many years, the power and aura they exuded still did not dissipate. These white bones were all filled with immortal jade bones. There were sparkling immortal jade bones everywhere. Amongst them, all of them were formed from the strength of these experts after they died. Chapter 2133. The power contained within these immortal jade bones was extremely vast and terrifying. The aura of power emitted from them caused Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others to turn pale as they passed by. The invisible power and the terrifying aura they emitted was unimaginable. If these foreign powerhouses were still alive, just how powerful would they be? Perhaps with just a gentle breath, they would be able to kill all of them. Was this the power of those powerhouses outside of the true Spill continent? Was this the power of those above the Venerable Realm, or perhaps even higher? Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others from the sects of the hidden world were so excited that their faces flushed red. At the same time, they were deeply shocked. Not because of anything else, but because so many foreign powerhouses had all died here without exception. Their corpses had piled up into mountains of bones. Yet, Luo Qingtong was able to make arrangements on Su Yu and the others, allowing them to walk through this forbidden zone unscathed. That woman was truly an incomparably terrifying monstrous genius. Such a monstrous genius, even in the outer realms, was probably one of a kind. As everyone thought of this, they were all shocked. As for Beast Tamer King Gu Guju and the others from Beast Tamer King Valley, they were even more terrified. It wasn't because of anything else, but because of the grudge they had with Luo Qingtong a long time ago. In their several confrontations, the young girl's ability had exceeded their imagination. First, she had easily escaped from the forbidden zone of Beast Tamer King Valley. Then, in Shattered Star Valley, she had displayed an extremely terrifying talent and ability. Now, in this forbidden zone, she had made arrangements on Su Yu and the others so that they could freely enter and exit the forbidden zone. It caused the terrifying divine beast phantom that had caused the deaths of countless Xenorace experts to turn a blind eye to them. One after another, one after another. Even if the people of Beast Tamer King Valley hated Luo Qingtong, they couldn't deny that the abilities that Luo Qingtong had displayed were all rare and unheard of. Fortunately, they had already killed her in Shattered Star Valley. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. At the same time, the people from Beast Taming King's Valley rejoiced in their hearts. When Luo Qingtong first came to the hidden world, the first thing she did was to cause trouble for them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have known of each other's existence. By the time the other party matured, there would be no way to deal with him. Thank goodness. However, in their hearts, they also hated that they had not paid attention to Luo Qingtong earlier. This way, they wouldn't have suffered such heavy losses. However, at that time, who would have thought that a 15 to 16-year-old girl, whose strength was not obvious, would be able to create such a huge storm in the hidden world? Even if she killed the Beast Tamer King Gu Guju and the others, they would never have thought that Luo Qingtong could threaten a first-class sect like theirs. What a joke! However, this huge joke just happened to come true. While the members of the Beast Taming King's Valley were rejoicing in their hearts, Su Yu and the others' expressions grew more and more solemn. There is no sign of master. Everyone's hearts were indescribably heavy. The reason why they had agreed to the threat of the Beast Tamer King Gu Guju and the others, besides not wanting to put the Grand Principal and the others in danger, was also because they thought that Luo Qingtong might be here. In this case, the young girl would definitely have a way to deal with the people of Beast Tamer King's Valley. Chapter 2134. Su Yu, Su Xiaoxiao, and the others were full of confidence in her. However, at this moment, they were already 1,000 meters away from the ball of light, but they still couldn't see the figure of their master. Even in the vicinity of the ball of light, there was nothing strange or suspicious. From the looks of it, Luo Qingtong shouldn't be here. The abnormality in the forbidden area wasn't caused by Luo Qingtong using the treasure map. Instead, it was a natural abnormality. Then they've done something wrong. They actually brought the people of Beast Taming King's Valley to this place. Once they obtained the life nurtured by the ball of light, they wouldn't be able to escape death. Everyone naturally knew what the consequences would be if Beast Taming King Gu Guju and the others obtained the thing in the ball of light. At that time, not only would they all die, even Luo Qingtong, whose whereabouts were still unknown, wouldn't be able to escape death. At this moment, they didn't dare to completely place their hopes on Ming Zun's strength. After all, they didn't know Yi Qianxian's true identity, nor did they know his true strength. They only knew that he was very strong, and they were afraid that the people in the hidden world wouldn't be his opponent. If they didn't enter the fallen immortal land this time, they probably wouldn't be able to enter. But even so, it didn't mean that Yi Qianxian would be able to protect Luo Qingtong. After all, the power of the ball of light was very strong, and the white bones in the surroundings were all proof of the terrifying life within the ball of light. Once the people of Beast Taming King's Valley obtained it, the consequences would be unimaginable. Thinking of this, Su Yu and the others' complexions turned pale. They really did something wrong. They couldn't continue to make mistakes. Grand Principal, Mistress Bai. Su Yu's voice was low as he secretly used the sound transmission method that Luo Qingtong taught him to send a message to the Grand Principal and Bai Suqing. Master isn't here, we can't let the people of beast-taming King's Valley continue to advance. Otherwise, when they obtain the thing in the ball of light, not only will we be unable to escape, but will also implicate Master. Su Yu's face was firm. Su Xiaoxiao, Little Overlord Yuan, Ling Tianhan, and the others beside her had the same expression. The other members of the Heavenly Diabolism did the same. At this moment, they all knew what to do. It didn't matter if they died. However, he couldn't let the people from beast-taming King's Valley succeed, and he definitely couldn't implicate Luo Qingtong. If they had known earlier that Luo Qingtong wasn't here, they definitely wouldn't have brought the people from beast-taming King's Valley over. Fortunately, there was still time to correct this mistake. However, they definitely couldn't care less about the people from the Sky Yuan sect. The Grand Supreme Dean and Bai Suqing had also discovered that Luo Qingtong was nowhere to be seen. Their hearts sank. Now that he heard Su Yu's words, how could he not know what she meant? Bai Suqing took a deep breath and said, "You don't have to care about us. This time, it's our Heavenly Yuan sect that has implicated you. You should leave immediately. No matter what, we can't let the people from beast-taming King's Valley get the thing in the ball of light." Without Luo Qingtong here, they couldn't deal with the people from beast-taming King's Valley. Su Yu and the others leaving immediately was the best thing to do. As long as they were gone, the people from beast-taming King's Valley would be exposed to the power of the divine beast's shadow transformation. At that time, they would naturally suffer. As for the people from the Sky Yuan sect, Su Yu and the others had already protected them once. Chapter 2135. They couldn't blame anyone. The Grand Supreme Dean said in a low voice, "That's right. You don't have to care about us. If the people from beast-taming King's Valley get their hands on that thing, won't we still die? What's the difference between dying early or later?" The Grand Supreme Dean thought that Luo Qingtong would be here, but she wasn't. If they had known, they wouldn't have come here. However, the Grand Supreme Dean knew that the temptation of the Forbidden Area treasure was too great. Even if they didn't want to come, the people from Sky Yuan sect would want to come. At that time, wouldn't they still want to come? Therefore, this matter was simply unavoidable. Su Yu and the rest had done their best. If it wasn't for them, the people from Sky Yuan sect would have been dead. After all, if Su Yu and the rest weren't there to block the people from beast-taming King's Valley, they would definitely use the people from other sects to block the disaster for them. At that time, the people from Sky Yuan sect would definitely be placed at the outermost. How could they have survived until now? The Grand Supreme Dean and Bai Suqing were very open-minded. Hearing their words, Su Yu immediately nodded and said, "Okay, then Grand Dean, Master's wife, take care. Also, you can take out the immortal jade bone that Master gave you to take a look. I suspect that Master might have done something to it." Su Yu thought for a long time and realized that the place where Luo Qingtong most likely had done something was the immortal jade bone. There were so many of them, and the only thing that everyone had was the immortal jade bone that Master gave them. Furthermore, when Luo Qingtong gave them the purifying immortal jade bone, she specifically instructed them not to take it out to the people from the Sky Yuan sect. They would take it out later and not use it for the time being. Su Yu thought that Luo Qingtong said that to guard against Chentong and the other pests in Sky Yuan sect. At the same time, she wanted to train them. Now, it seemed that things weren't like that. Master might have done something to the immortal jade bone early on, so she gave them the immortal jade bone on purpose. Guarding against Chentong and the others was just a side effect. Su Yu and the others had already taken out the purified celestial jade bones and distributed them to the Heavenly Yuan sect members who were willing to support them when the Heavenly Yuan sect members expressed their support. Su Yu didn't know if her guess was right or not, but at this time, they couldn't care about the Supreme Dean and the others. They could only treat a dead horse as a living horse. Hearing Su Yu's words, Bai Suqing and the Grand Supreme Dean were stunned for a moment, then they were delighted. After Su Yu finished talking to them, she immediately passed her order to the people from heavenly diabolism. Because they were standing in a circle at the outermost part, the message was passed easily. Soon, all the people from heavenly diabolism, including Su Xiaoxiao and the rest, understood her order. Chapter 2136. Let's go. Su Yu's voice rang out at this moment. Her figure also abruptly shot backward. When her voice rang out, all the people from the heavenly diabolism began to move. In an instant, the outermost circle of the circular formation suddenly spread out in all directions and fell apart. Bastard! Seeing this, the beast tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others were shocked and angry. They did not expect that Su Yu and the others would launch an attack at this moment. They were so eager that they did not care about the lives of the people from the heavenly Yuan sect. The beast tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others had been paying attention to the movements of Su Yu and the others. After all, it was related to their lives. Naturally, they were always on guard against Su Yu and the others. However, they thought that since Su Yu and the others were willing to be threatened by them for the sake of the people from the heavenly Yuan sect, they would naturally not ignore the people from the heavenly Yuan sect. Therefore, they were on guard that Su Yu and the others would suddenly attack them. However, who would have thought that Su Yu and the others did not do that and instead retreated? These people did not care about the lives of the people from the heavenly Yuan sect. If they did that, the people from the heavenly Yuan sect would also die. The people from the Beast Tamer Valley were caught off guard. So were the people from the other sects. They helplessly watched Su Yu and the others scatter, completely exposing them to the center of the forbidden area, in front of the terrifying power of the divine beast's shadows. Seeing that those divine beasts were no different from the real form of the divine beasts, the vast power of the divine beasts rushed toward them. The people from the other sects who were drooling and excited when they saw the huge ball of light were now panic-stricken and fearful. Their voices were sharp as they chased after Su Yu and the others. He wanted to capture them before they left for good. Otherwise, in front of the divine beast's power of the divine beasts that could kill the experts from the extraterrestrial region like chickens and dogs, they would die without leaving a trace. This was not a metaphor, but a statement. These people would really die without leaving a single trace behind. At the same time, the beast tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others also rushed towards Su Yu and the others. At this moment, no one cared about the people from the Sky Yuan sect. After all, Su Yu and the others clearly didn't care about them. What was the use of using them to threaten Su Yu and the others? What if the threat didn't work and Su Yu ran away instead? Could it be that at that time, they were going to wait for death? Everyone's first reaction was, of course, to capture Su Yu and the others. As for the heavenly Yuan sect crowd, they felt an indescribable sense of panic when Su Yu and the others retreated. However, they also knew that even if they didn't die now, once Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others obtained the thing in the light, they would still die. In that case, it wasn't worth it to die now. They could also see Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others' plan fail. The crowd watched as Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu and the others angrily went to capture Su Yu and the others. Their hearts were very calm. However, at this moment, the Grand Supreme Dean and Bai Suqing's voices rang out. Quick, take out the purifying immortal jade bones that you obtained from Luo Qingtong. Chapter 2137. The Grand Supreme Dean and Bai Suqing's voices were anxious and anxious. The power of the divine beast's shadows was already rushing towards them. Whether it worked or not, it all depended on this moment. Hearing this, everyone immediately took out the purifying divine jade bones that they had obtained from Su Yu and the rest. Bang! At this moment, a Sky Yuan sect disciple was brushed by the power of a divine beast's shadow that was rushing towards them. The flame feather that was only a few millimeters away almost brushed past his shoulder and completely vaporized his shoulder. The Sky Yuan Sect disciple was in so much pain that tears came out of his eyes. However, he was ecstatic. The power of the purifying divine jade bones is useful. It's useful. As his voice rang out, the group of people from the Heaven Yuan sect almost hugged each other and cried. What did it mean to have a silver lining? What did it mean to come back from the brink of death? At this moment, they finally understood the situation. They did not have to die. They did not have to die. Great ups and downs, great joy and great sorrow. Everyone was unable to control their emotions. At this moment, the beast tamer King Guguju and the rest also noticed the commotion at the Sky Yuan sect. When they turned around, they were so angry that they wanted to vomit blood. These bastards! They actually have a way to avoid the power of the divine beast's shadows. The beast tamer King Guguju and the rest were furious. They could not understand why the Sky Yuan sect disciples did not use a way to avoid the power of the divine beast's shadows earlier if they had a way to do so. Why did they use it to threaten Su Yu and the rest? Could it be that the latter and the rest deliberately set them up? However, even if they wanted to set them up, there were so many opportunities along the way. Why did they not set them up? The beast tamer King Guguju and the rest were furious. It was impossible for them to go back and capture the Sky Yuan sect disciples now. After a short moment of excitement, the latter and the rest immediately realized the danger they were in. Previously, the Sky Yuan sect disciples did not know that they also had a way to avoid the power of the divine beast's shadows, and all their attention was on Su Yu and the rest. Now that they knew that they also had a way, they would naturally turn around to deal with them. Therefore, the people of the Heavenly Yuan sect quickly regained their senses and retreated out of the forbidden area. It had not been easy for them to obtain a chance of survival. They did not want to repay kindness with enmity and snatch that huge ball of light. That should be Luo Qingtong's. She was the one who had saved all of their lives. The remaining members of the Heavenly Yuan sect were not cruel and unscrupulous. They would not do such a thing. Of course, it was also fortunate that they did not do so. This was because the immortal jade bones that Luo Qingtong asked Su Yu and the others to give them were different from those of Su Yu and the others. The reason why these immortal jade bones were able to evade these mythological beasts was because Luo Qingtong had infused them with some mysterious power that she had studied from Bai Suqing and the Grand Supreme Dean. After Luo Qingtong's blood I restored the essence of these powers. She tried to inject these powers into the purifying immortal jade bones for Su Yu and the others to protect themselves. In the future, when they entered the forbidden area, they would not be injured by those mysterious powers. However, Luo Qingtong was not sure if she could succeed at that time. Therefore, she did not tell Su Yu and the others. She was afraid that they would be too lazy and rely on her, which would cause trouble instead. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.